Morning, dear students. I hope you can hear me. Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me. Am I audible? Can you hear my voice? Good morning, everyone. Yes, coming to today's class. I'll be dealing with paper two, that is Shakespeare. So, in that paper, I'll be dealing with some of the major texts, and also I'll be covering few more texts from other papers. Some of the major texts, like 4 to 5 texts, probably I can cover within the given time, within the allotted slot, Now, paper two is very, very important. Entire paper deals with the Shakespearean plays and the criticism of on Shakespeare. Criticism also covers appreciation on his masterly works and also criticism. Coming to this great man, you all know Shakespeare was born in 1564 and died in the year 1616. He lived in the era of Elizabeth I. Elizabeth I was the queen who was ruling England at that time. So you have at the present situation we have Elizabeth II ruling England, isn't it? So Elizabeth I was the queen who was ruling England during Shakespearean period. So Shakespeare has written totally 37 plays and 154 sonnets. And in those 37, so in those 37 sonnets, no, sorry, 37 plays, 37 plays can be categorized into three different major types of plays. They can be categorized into three major types of plays. One is historical plays, and the second one is uh, tragic plays, and the third one is comic plays. And tragic, romantic comedies are also there. So that means blending tragedy with comedy. And even in tragic plays, you see some of the comic scenes peeping or entering into the play. That means Shakespeare believed in what if he always felt that since literature is the reflection of life, literature should have blend of both comic scenes and the tragic incidents. If since literature reflects life, he never followed Aristotle's theory of tragedy. He never felt like tragedy should be totally dealt with tragic incidents. No, not at all. Shakespeare always tried that blending tragedy with comic elements is necessary because literature is reflection of life. You cannot escape means some of the comic incidents, some of even though you are undergoing so many traumatic situations in your life, you'll be having a little bit of fun in life, isn't it? In the same way, Shakespeare felt that since literature is the reflection of life, it is necessary to have comic scenes even in tragic plays. So today I'll be dealing with one of the major texts of the paper, that is paper 2, course 2, that is Shakespeare. That major text is of again is called, is titled as Julius Caesar. You know, I'm in confusion whether to categorize Julius Caesar as a tragic play or as a comic historical play. But he's a historical character, historical figure. There lived a man called Julius Caesar who ruled Rome for a few years, isn't it? And he was a Roman emperor. He was a Roman emperor, very, very mighty, gigantic personality in the history of Rome. And at the same time, he's a tragic character, a very, very tragic character, very, very ambitious. Okay, and in Shakespearean plays, two tragic plays, two things play major, two important issues do play major role. One is destiny. Destiny plays major role in destiny or fate. plays the major role in Shakespearean tragedies, and at the same time, again the errors or the mistakes committed by the heroes also do play a major role in Shakespearean tragedies. But whereas Macbeth is a play completely again it's a play completely completely revolves around again destiny, revolves around the destiny of the fate of Macbeth. Whereas here in this play, it is not destiny which plays the major role; it is the conspiracy, it is the error, or the mistakes that the characters commit while taking decisions do play a major role in such tragedies like Julius Caesar. Now, you might have heard the etymology. There is a word called Caesarean operation. Caesarean. The word Caesarean operation. If a child is delivered through Caesarean operation, it's called a Caesarean operation. It's not that Caesar. We speak about in hospitals. It is the Caesarean. Caesarean means the history according to the language experts. They feel that Julius Caesar was the first human being to be born through Caesarean operation. You look into the etymology, that is what the meaning we get. Caesar means to cut, isn't it? Caesar in Latin means, in Latin language, Caesar means to cut. The actual spelling for Caesar in Latin language was like it was again Caedare, Caedare in Latin language. Okay, so when you when you try to find the meaning for that word, it becomes again in English it is to cut. Okay, Julius Caesar was the first man to be born to Caesarean operation. That is the reason why it's an eponym. Like people, if you name, if you give meaning to a particular word, if you want to find out like some words are named after people, right? After people, some words, some names are named after people. So, in order to give credit or to attribute to their achievement or to their stature, isn't it? So, if they have given some contribution to human race or mankind, normally it happens in science. They name that particular invention or discovery on the on that personality, right? So, coming to this play, Julius Caesar, again, as I told you, before moving to Julius Caesar, let me give you a brief introduction on Shakespeare. So, Shakespeare got source or material for his plays from Olinshed's Chronicles, and also Plutarch's books on the lives of great Romans and Greeks. Plutarch, there was a famous poet called Plutarch. He had written a book called the Lives of Great Romans and Greeks. So from that book, Shakespeare borrows material or source for his plays. You know, when you read Shakespearean plays, particularly when you read tragedies, compared to Shakespearean, if you compare Shakespearean tragedies with the Greek tragedies, Shakespearean tragedies nowhere stands with the nowhere stands close to Greek tragedies, because Greek tragedies are the greatest tragedies. Particularly a play like Oedipus Rex. Oedipus Rex cannot again no Shakespearean no Shakespearean tragedy can match a play like Oedipus Rex, which is famous in Greek tragedies. So, what I mean to say is, Shakespearean tragedies are nowhere near to Greek tragedies in comparison. But whereas when it comes to dealing with comedies, Shakespeare is an expert. Is an expert. He knows how to manage things, and that is the slight observation that I have made. Like Shakespeare is literally an expert when dealing with comedies and tragedies. If you read Greek tragedies, Shakespearean tragedies are nothing. That is the that is the small observation. That is my small observation. So compared to again, Plutarch's lives of lives, lives of Greeks and Romans is the major book for Shakespeare to borrow material on characters from Greek history or the Roman history. Okay, he also borrows material for from European historical characters from Olensched's Chronicles. A character like Hamlet, okay, for again a prince from Denmark, Macbeth, a king of Scotland. The historical details for these plays he borrows from Chronicles. Olensched's Chronicles. So Shakespeare, before you should not forget that Shakespeare wrote these plays for on-stage performance, on-stage performance, because during those days people were going to theater and that was the only source of entertainment. There was the only source of entertainment. Uh, People visiting theaters, again performing on stage was performing on stage for audience, okay, during that time. And before performing on stage before the audience, Shakespeare used to make his characters enact these plays before the royal dynasty, royal family, to their because you should not forget that these people were again they were working under the Queen Elizabeth. Okay, they were part of the royal again. They were all called as courtiers, courtesans, huh? And that is the reason why Shakespeare enacted almost all his plays were enacted before the royal dynasty, royal family members, and later on those plays were staged on again staged before the audience. And this particular play, Julius Caesar, was enacted on stage in the year 1599, 1599, 1599. So, and Julius Caesar was born in the year 120, 102, and died in the year 44 BC. You should not forget that before Christ, he was born and lived before Christ. Just he died just before, again, 44 years before Jesus Christ was born. Okay, so 44 years elder to Jesus Christ, probably. So he was born in the year 102 and died in the year 44 BC. 44 BC. And he lived for that means he lived for a very short period, isn't it? Almost like for almost how many years? 44 BC, 102. That means 66, 68 years, isn't it? So and at the same time, people again coming to this particular play, as I told you, Julius Caesar was killed. Again, he is killed in this text. He is killed in Act 3 itself. But still, Shakespeare considers it. But still, why the play is titled on Julius Caesar? There is a again grand debate. Again, even today, people discuss about it. Why the play is titled or named after Julius Caesar when Julius Caesar is assassinated in Act 3 itself. But the very stature or the personality or the figure of Julius Caesar is such that you can see the presence of Julius Caesar throughout the play. Now, people, because all the actions they can see incidents that are connected with the assassination of Julius Caesar, the repercussions after killing Julius Caesar can be felt till the last act. The repercussions. So whatever that happens after killing a great leader, emperor like Julius Caesar, what happens to the Roman history, to Roman public, to Roman ruling class after killing Julius Caesar? So that becomes the center issue for discussion or debate. That is the reason why, because it is Marcus Brutus. It is Marcus Brutus, Marcus, Marcus Brutus, Brutus. It is Marcus Brutus. Is the again he is the character who can be considered as the chief protagonist of this play because almost again you can see the presence of Brutus till the last scene of the play, and it is the Brutus who appears to be a gentleman, a noble Roman, is considered as the noble Roman by the critics. Okay, whereas he is again whereas Julius Caesar is the greatest leader, Whereas Brutus, the closest friend of Caesar, is considered as the noblest of all Romans. Noblest of all Romans. So people, readers, audience, or theater-going audience certainly fall in love with the character of Marcus Brutus. Marcus Brutus, because he falls victim to a false ideology, you can say. False ideology means, you see, this play was written before, this play was written and enacted in 1599. But you see, Shakespeare speaks about republican ideology, republican principles. Okay, it is Plato who wrote. It is Plato who wrote the book called Republic. You know that book had a kind of influence on Romans and also Greeks in the kind of administration, in the kind of rule. Okay, so Republican ideology speaks about public sharing what power with the public, sharing power with the public equally. So you think about that. We are discussing about an issue, a democratic issue like Republican ideology, discussed and enacted and were again it was in use. The Republican principles were again of administrative principles were in use during that time, during before again that means before Christ. That means like that Republican ideology had a kind of influence on the ruling class of Rome, and even Julius Caesar, and along with Julius Caesar, Brutus, and other characters, Casca and other characters, fought for upholding the Republican ideology, which was advocated by Plato. Okay, Plato and his Republican ideology speaks about equality and sharing power with the public, public. And these great warriors, okay, they defeated Philippi. Uh, Not Philippi. It is Pompey. It is Pompey. Pompey. Pompey was defeated by Julius Caesar along with his other brave warriors in Philippi. Philippi is a town located in Italy even today. You can see if you visit Philippi, if you visit Rome or the neighboring provinces of Rome, you can see the reminiscences of the Roman history, the remaining dilapidated state of structures, buildings, are even can be seen even today in Rome. Okay, Philippi becomes the center point. It is the war place. People fought wars in Philippi. Entire southern Europe were ruled by Romans, and that is the reason why Julius Caesar appears like a dictator, like a great emperor. He had all those qualities of becoming an emperor and also a dictator, and that was envisaged or visualized probably by Brutus. There is one more character called Cassius. It is Cassius who spoils Brutus. He feels in a kind of hatredness in Brutus' mind towards Julius Caesar. You see, the entire text is of 5 acts. It's of 5 acts, and you see, Julius Caesar is killed in again Act 3, Scene 1. Act 3, Scene 1, and till Act 3, you can see Julius Caesar's character. Shakespeare creates a kind of kind of feeling in reader's mind that Caesar is of a man with great again personality. He's a man with great stature. Means he's the greatest warrior. He's the greatest warrior, and people have fear and respect for him. And he returns to Rome after defeating Pompey in Philippi. He is returning to Rome, and I'll give you just the glimpse, few important textual details to for your to support your argument in your answers. Okay, so you can see in Act 1, Scene 1, you can see Shakespeare makes these trivial, very, very small characters. They're speaking about a great personality like Julius Caesar. Okay, so about his arrival, he has defeated uh, Pompey in Philippi. He's coming back. He's coming back. You know, people are expecting Julius Caesar. They are standing aside on the streets of Rome. On the streets of Rome, they are expecting Julius Caesar to return to Rome from Philippi after defeating Pompey. And it is Julius Caesar who is able to take the charge of Roman Empire, and they are expecting now. And there stands Cassius. Cassius is the villain. He is the villain of this play. He is the one who spoils Brutus, and Cassius is standing next to the crowd. He is also expecting Julius Caesar along with Brutus and other warriors. But we should also keep one thing in mind, that Cassius was close to Pompey, and that is the reason why Julius Caesar keeps him out of power. He never allows Cassius to come close to power. You see, the entire play revolves around the theme of power. It's the struggle for power. The characters in this play fight for power. Power becomes the central point or the central issue for discussion in this play. You know, in the very first act, you see scene one, people are discussing about the arrival of Caesar. You know, there are carpenters, people from different strata of society, lower strata of society. Strata means the class, S-T-R-A-T-A, okay, strata of society. People are from different strata of society. There you can see cobblers, carpenters. They are all waiting for people from different sects of society. They are all waiting to welcome Julius Caesar. They are all waiting to give him a grand welcome. You know, there is a cobbler and also carpenter. There is one important line here. You can just you just listen to it. You know, there are tribunes. Few people who are associated with administrative class. There are tribunes like Flavius, Marulus, and certain other commoners. They are all waiting. Flavius, F-L-A-V-I-U-S, Flavius, Marulus, M-A-R-U-L-L-A, sorry, Marulus, and other few common people. They are waiting. Okay, they are all waiting beside the road. Okay, to welcome Caesar. And you see, the one tribune, that is Marulus, asks a cobbler who is standing next to him, "What trade or thou?" Means, what is your job? What kind of work you do? Answer me directly. You see, look at the reply of this cobbler. A trade, sir, that I hope I may use with a safe conscience, which is indeed, sir, a mender of bad souls. So, cobbler means one who stitches the shoes or sandal slippers, isn't it? But this cobbler, he says, so I do a job of a cobbler. It means a trade, sir, that I hope I may use with conscience, which is indeed, sir, a mender of bad souls. So souls, S-O-L-E-S, is speaking about soul that you see under shoes or chapels or sandals, right? He's speaking about that soul, S-O-L-E. But it also means about the soul, S-O-U-L soul. Okay, mender of bad souls. So the cobbler, again, very, very significant. You know, Shakespeare at the very initial stage makes the reader feel that even a commoner like carpenter or a cobbler is involved in the administrative issues of a nation, of an empire like a Roman Empire. People, even a commoner, that is the speciality of Shakespeare, because people from different class of society used to come to watch plays enacted on stage in theaters. That is the reason why Shakespeare involved the minor characters. The commoner, the last citizen of a society. He involves the last citizen of a society in a play like Julius Caesar. Where is Julius Caesar? There is a Julius Caesar who is almost said to be an emperor. and he also involves a cobbler-like character, a minor character like cobbler. You have a cobbler, a carpenter, they are all involved about the political facts of the Roman Empire. They want to know what is happening. They all discuss about it. So, Cobbler says, I'm a mender of bad souls. I'm a mender of bad souls. The very act, scene one, Shakespeare speaks about what souls, bad souls. Means there are bad souls in the play. Okay, which is very very important. So he's giving a kind of hint. Okay, what the play is all about. Okay, and the play is also important because the same people, this particular scene is also very, very important because the same commoners, these common people waited for Pompey once upon a time. Pompey got the same kind of reception, same kind of welcome by the common people. Whenever he returned from war, people used to give the same kind of love, show same kind of love or affection towards Pompey. But the same Pompey who was all set to become a dictator was defeated by Julius Caesar in the war at Philippi, and you can see the swaying mood of the public. Swaying mood of the public. The public mood changes with the shifting powers. With shifting powers, isn't it? People, if you are in power, people will be at your door like anything. The power is like sweet, whereas people are like hands, isn't it? So once you lose power, your house will be deserted. Nobody will come to you seeking any kind of help, isn't it? Power is like opium. Power is like opium. That is the reason why politicians fight for it. Fight for it in a system like democracy, isn't it? In a system like democracy. So, as I told you, so there is a swaying mood in the public, swaying mood of the public. As I told you, they welcome Pompey in the same way, and it is ridiculed in the very first act of scene one. People are waiting for Julius Caesar to give him a grand welcome. The same public gave a grand welcome to Pompey once upon a time. So that kind of swaying mood of public is ridiculed by these again tribunes. And in the first act itself, you can see Caesar appears, scene two, and you can see there is a soothsayer, one who predicts the future, Bhavishya Edor. So the soothsayer says, so you see, Caesar has returned to Rome. The exact date of Caesar's return to Rome is February 12th. February 12th, okay. And the soothsayer tells him, he tells him to be careful of March 14th. Something is going to happen to you on March 14th. So he's predicting his future. Something is going to, he can foresee the danger that Caesar is going to encounter in future. So be careful. Something is going to happen on March 14th to you. So that is what the soothsayer says. But Caesar's pride disregards any kind of warning from the soothsayer. So you can see it disregards because the Julius Caesar is such a character that he is a man with so much of pride. So vanity, you can say vanity. He loves himself. Okay, he is self-centered. And he is very, very brave. At the same time, he is very, very proud of his bravery. He's very, very proud of his bravery, and that is the reason why you can see that the same pride disregards any kind of warning that he receives from the soothsayer. So he has no respect for the soothsayer. He is not ready to believe all that. Okay. Though he says to be careful on March 14, that means he has got another 30 plus 2, means February 12th is the date that Caesar returns from the war, from the battle, and March 14th is the danger date. Okay. But what happens here? This is what Caesar says. Caesar says Caesar is not liable to fear. So fear is not the word. Julius Caesar is not at all. Is not at all worried about anything. There is no space for the word fear in his life. So there is no space for fear in his life's dictionary. Okay, in his dictionary, there is no word for again. There is no word called fear in his life's dictionary. So that is what he says. Caesar is not liable to fear. Fear, not liable to fear. He is not liable to fear. And but Brutus, in fact, warns Caesar. He says that to listen to the advice of soothsayer, to be careful. So to listen to him and follow his words. But the dramatic irony is the same Brutus who advises Julius Caesar to be careful on March 14 in wars. He becomes a part of seven secret Romans who plot or conspire to kill Julius Caesar. So there is a conspiracy going on. It is the Cassius who builds that conspiracy. Okay, and the other characters, they all become victim to his conspiracy. So it is nothing but sheer jealous. It is nothing but sheer jealous which spoils Cassius, which spoils Cassius. But whereas Brutus falls victim to the false republican ideology. He always wanted to, like his ancestors. His ancestors also fought for Plato's republican principles. In the same way, Brutus, who had highest regard or respect for republican ideology, he never wanted someone to be a dictator or an emperor and have a kind of monarchic rule or a dictatorial attitude towards the common man. Like that is the reason why Brutus becomes a part of the seven secret Romans in the conspiracy of killing Julius Caesar. So I'll skip few pages. But he returns to the palace, and Cassius. What happens there on the other side? Cassius tries to persuade Casca. He persuades Casca because Casca is very religious man. He's very religious man, and Cassius, in a way, he says that the God, one who is above us, is watching. The Roman gods, they are all watching. They don't want a man like a tyrant like Julius Caesar to be an emperor of this Roman Empire. So in that way, he's trying to persuade people one by one. In the initial stage, he succeeds in persuading a character called Casca, because Casca is a religious man. He says that in fact he creates a kind of fear in Casca's mind that God, they are not going to spare Casca if he becomes part of Caesar's ambition. Caesar's ambition. Whereas Cassius, Cassius, Cassius is a character, as I told you, he's a villainous character. He's a man, ambition. He's a character who is a man with ambition, and he is the man who is excluded from power. So what happens to someone who is excluded from power? You can see this MLS, they make a lot of noise if they don't get ministerial birth, isn't it? So they create a lot of noise, isn't it? When the government is formed. In the same way, if you exclude some people who are close to power, they create a lot of problems. That is the reason why people who are in power always throw biscuits, always give certain positions for certain people who make a lot of noise, isn't it? So this is very much common. And you see, Cassius succeeds in persuading both Brutus and Casca. In fact, Cassius tries to persuade Brutus by reduction Caesar's godlike image or superiority to human frailty. Caesar had a kind of godlike image among the warriors of Rome. But this man, Cassius, he is trying to belittle Caesar. Like he's trying to say that Caesar is not a demigod. He is not. He is not the greatest of all Romans. He is like you and me. He is like you and me. Okay, he is a common man. So he is a common human being. So he has got all the human weaknesses. He has got all the human weaknesses. That is how he tries to persuade Brutus. At the same time, he also tells him that if Caesar comes to power, there is a serious danger, threat for republican principles. If Brutus allows Julius Caesar to be the emperor or the king of Rome, there is a serious threat for what? Republican principles or ideology. In that way, Brutus was persuaded, and see, this is how he says. This is what he says, Cassius to Brutus. Now, is it Rome indeed, and Rome enough, when there is in it but one only man? Oh, you and I have heard our fathers say there was Brutus once that could have brooked the eternal devil to keep his state in Rome as easily as it can. So he's saying that in future, our future progeny may speak ill about you because you were also the part of making Caesar the emperor. Or he also again he says that future generation may not what show mercy or may not forgive you, Brutus. So in that, like, don't allow Julius Caesar to reach that position. Now Cassius trying to convince Brutus is like a practiced manipulator working on innocent objects. He's a manipulator. He's a practiced manipulator. He knows how to manipulate human psyche. Whereas Brutus, very, very noble, soft, great warrior, but a noble character. His mind is not filled with any kind of poison. So he is not venomous in nature. Whereas Cassius is venomous. That is the reason why Brutus becomes an easy prey to Cassius plot. And compared to Brutus, Cassius is the astute, A-S-T-U-T-E, astute judge of men and situations. Cassius is very, very vindictive, and he is a cold-blooded murderer. You can call him as a cold-blooded murderer. So there is no space for the words like mercy, sympathy in his mind. Okay, whereas this man is a very, very astute judge of men and situations, at the same time a manipulator of human psyche, at the same time very, very vindictive and a cold-blooded murderer. Whereas Brutus on the other side becomes the victim, okay, of Cassius' ploy. Now, let me see what kind of character is Caesar. So we see there are only two important women characters in this play. One is Calpurnia, the wife of Calphuria. Calpurnia is the wife of Julius Caesar, and there is another character called Portia, the wife of Brutus. There are only two major women characters, and that is the reason why critics call this play as anti-feminist play, because there is very little scope for women characters to excel, to show their what talent or valor, or to show their display their skill, because there are only two characters. Those two characters, Calpurnia and Portia, they are always meant to brood or cry. They were always meant to brood or cry. In the entire play is dominated by men. So the entire play revolves around men, war or battle, and power. You know, it's a play of men. It's a play on completely on men, matters dealing with men, war or battle. At the same time, it's a play on power. Okay, it's about power politics, and you see when when March 14th is supposed to end, when that particular date is close, very much near. In fact, Calpurnia is very much what concerned about the safety of her husband. She, in fact, advises her husband to be careful on that particular date, to listen to the words of the soothsayer, you know. Uh, but Caesar is not ready to listen. Caesar is not ready to listen. He is not ready to listen to Calpurnia's what advices. So at the same time, Brutus reviews his reasons. He tries to review his reasons for joining the conspiracy. He thinks a lot. He is worried now. In the entire Act 2, Scene 1, Act 2 revolves around Brutus' mindset. Brutus is worried. He is on the other side. You have a very good loyal friend who loves you a lot. On the called Julius Caesar. So he has got that loyalty towards Julius Caesar, love or affection towards Julius Caesar. He respects his courage or bravery. On the other side, he has to uphold the Republican ideology, the Republican principles. So Brutus is in dilemma. He doesn't know what to do. He is in confused state. Brutus reviews his reasons for joining the conspiracy to kill Caesar. Yet, for the good of the state, for the good of the state, like Rome, it must be done. It must be done because the absolute power, they are all discussing about absolute power. You know, Caesar, again, reaching the position of king. If Caesar becomes king, it's nothing but nothing but achieving what or gaining what absolute power. So they feel that according to Republican ideology, one cannot have absolute power. No, power itself destroys, isn't it? So because the absolute power of a king may change his nature and make him oppressive or tyrannical, oppressive or tyrannical, isn't it? That is the reason why Brutus has that fear. If you give absolute power to Julius Caesar, he may become oppressive. He may become oppressive or tyrannical, or again tyrannical in future. That is the reason why he is worried. He is in confused state. He doesn't know what to do. But ultimately, he changes his mind and he is ready to become a party, of the seven secret Romans, seven secret Romans who are all set to kill Julius Caesar. You know, as I told you, Casca is convinced by Cassius. Cassius tries to convince Casca that the gods in heaven are angry over the state of affairs in Rome, and he knows that man responsible for the events, and he tries to enlist Casca to his conspiracy. Since Casca is a religious man, Cassius tries to convince him by giving what religious touch to his plan. He says that gods above in the sky, they are not happy with the state affairs of Rome. They are not happy with what is happening in Rome. So in that way, one by one, he makes the people who are close to Julius Caesar to become a party or to become or to join his group, or join his group. His group is called as Seven Secret Romans, okay, who have got a plan or plot, a plan or a ploy to kill Julius Caesar. So, see, if I don't complete this play again, I may extend it for another half an hour, and later on I may move to some other text in the noon session. I have another class. I have got another class for you at 2 p.m. So at that time, I'll complete this third play, and I'll also move to the other text. So what happens here? At the same time, Brutus never considers Antony as the. There is another character called Mark Antony. Mark Antony is also the closest friend of Julius Caesar. He is a very loyal friend. He is not the greatest warrior. He is not the greatest warrior like Brutus or Caesar. Very, very noble, soft, who loves music and poetry. Okay, Mark Antony is a character who loves music, poetry, but at the same time, very, very soft. At the same time, according to critics, Mark Antony is a cunning character, very, very cunning. That you can see in the reading of the play. At the end of the play, he is not true to his art. Even Mark Antony is also even Mark Antony is also behind power. He is also aspiring to be something in Roman Empire. So people are fighting for power. Mark Antony has got a plan, and Brutus never treats Mark Antony as a threat, because even though Mark Antony was very much present at the time of killing Caesar, they allow him to escape. They allow him to escape. The reason is they feel that Mark Antony may not be a threat to their life in future. So we see that in Act 3, and you can see the concerned Portia, where there is concerned Calpurnia on the other side, who is worried about March 14, the events that may take place on March 14. Okay, but whereas you have Portia, the wife of Brutus, who is also worried to see her again thinking as well. He is worried. She is curious to know why Brutus is so disturbed. Okay, she is curious to know why is he so disturbed. He is always awake at night, late night, and she has concern for her troubled husband. So she has concern for her troubled husband. That is the reason why critics consider this play as anti-feminist play, because these women characters are just made to cry. They are just made to cry, worry, brood. Okay, because as I told you, the entire play revolves around the theme of men, war, and power. So throughout the play, you can see war, men. They all discuss about war, conspiracy, killing, murder, and the fight is for what? Power. Okay, power. So, Portia again, as I told you, is concerned about that. So, as I told you, the play is predominantly about men and their struggle for power. Therefore, a large part of the play is concerned with the debate for power, with the planning to kill, and there is also a lot of scope for battle, war, isn't it? And both Portia and Calpurnia, as I told you, are fearful about the safety of their husbands. You know, Caesar is this act is also very, very important. Act 2, Scene 2, where Caesar's characteristic or his stature, his personality is made to know by Shakespeare to the readers. So if readers, again, Shakespeare wants his readers or stage on stage or again the audience to know what kind of character this man is. Okay, Caesar, as I told you, is not liable to fear. He hardly bothers about the prophecies or or the words of soothsayers, he hardly cares for the predictions. The predictions, he doesn't bother for all that. He's a man who lives with practicality, practical thinking, a man with practical thinking. Okay, very, very brave, and at the same time, very, very proud of himself, self-centered. Caesar in this scene is both the self-conscious public figure, the hero to whom fear is unknown. Fear is unknown, yet also the private individual who yields to his wife's fear. At the same time, there is something. So again, even though he is a brave warrior, very very proud about his own abilities. At the same time, there is a kind of slight fear in his mind, but still he hardly cares for that. He hardly cares for that. But it is revealed. It is revealed in that conversation, in that dialogue that takes place between Calpurnia and Caesar. Look at this famous textual quotation, and like the lines. You can use that in exam when you are covering the characteristic of Shakespeare. What kind of character is Shakespeare? Sorry, Caesar, Julius Caesar is. When you are answering to a question like sketch the character of Julius Caesar, you can use this quotation, textual lines. Look at this man. When Calpurnia says to be careful about March 14 and to be at home, she doesn't want her husband to move out of his palace. She advises him to be at palace. Look at these lines. Okay. Cowards die many times. Cowards die many times before their death. So ಏಡಿಗಳು ಎಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಬಾರಿ ಸಾಯ್ತಾರೆ before their death. Cowards die every day. If you are brave, you encounter death only once, isn't it? Cowards die many times before their death. Before their death. Semicolon. The valiant will never taste death. The valiant never taste of death but once. The valiant means the one who is brave. The one who is brave will taste death only once. Only once. Of all the wonders that yet I have heard, it seems to me more strange that men should fear. So he feels strange that men fear. Men, why he hardly bothers about the fear. Okay. So any kind of fear. So you can see that it seems to me more strange that men should fear, seeing that death in necessary end will come when it will come. So look at this man. So he feels that death will come when it has to come. So death, seeing that death a necessary end, death is certainty. Death is going to happen. So we are all bound to die, but that doesn't mean that we should lead a life with the fear of death. We should lead a life with the fear of death every day. Okay, that is what he means. So he hardly cares for death. He is ready to face death at any given point of time. So, and he also says that the gods, in the next line, he also says the gods do this in shame of cowardice. Caesar should be a beast without a heart. If he should stay at home today for fear, no, Caesar shall not. Danger knows fully well that Caesar is more dangerous than he. Even danger. So danger is personified. Danger is personified. He says that danger knows fully well. Even danger knows very well that so danger knows fully well that knows fully well that Caesar is is more dangerous than him. So he feels that danger is like his twin, Okay, no, Caesar shall not. No, Caesar shall not. Danger knows fully well that Caesar is more dangerous than he. He means danger. So danger is personified here. That Caesar is more dangerous than he. We are two lions. We means myself and danger. We are two lions litter in one day. So litter, Litter, litter means Janma kododu, to be born on the same day. So danger was born on the day when Caesar was born. So that means danger has nothing to do with me because we are like two brothers, twins. And I, the elder, and more terrible. I am the elder. I am elder to danger. I am elder to danger. Okay. I, the elder, and more terrible. Look at the way Shakespeare gives a kind of builds the kind of character here. The kind of he builds a kind of notion among the minds of people, audience, theater going audience. They certainly fall in love with this character, isn't it? By looking at this personality, by looking at his overwhelming confidence, isn't it? You can see, it's not ego. You cannot call it as ego. You can call it as overconfidence, you can say. Like, we are two lions littered in one day, and I, the elder, and more terrible. So I am more terrible and elder than the danger, and Caesar shall go forth. Caesar shall go forth means Caesar will certainly go. So So in that way, by looking at these words, it is certain that Caesar is not worried about his safety. He's not worried about his safety or he's not worried about death. He hardly cares for death. So I have come again. Uh, there. I think I have got another 5 minutes. Uh, because there are again almost all Shakespearean plays. Again, Shakespeare has got certain structure. He has got a particular structure. All his share again, all his plays are five acts plays, and almost climax scenes or climax incidents uh, do take place in Act 3 or Act 4. So Caesar's killing itself is a climax which happens in Act 3, Scene 1. Scene 1. Let us see what happens there. So look at the kind of confidence that Caesar has. So, and there comes a character called Casca, who tries to what uh, motivate Caesar to come out of his palace on March 14th. In fact, he ridicules Caesar. He makes fun of Caesar that you are a man of such a stature, and why should you fear? So people will laugh at you if you stay at home on March 14th. So by that way, like he tries to what change the stance, change the stance of Caesar. So Casca was intentionally sent by Cassius because Cassius has that fear that Caesar may stay at home on March 14th. He may not come out of his palace by listening to the words of his wife. So for that reason, so he sends Casca and other characters to convince Caesar to come out of the palace. Okay, Decius, sorry. Decius is not Casca, it is Decius. Decius, Decius. Decius. And he tries to convince, he also makes fun of Caesar. So he says that people will laugh at you if you stay at home. People have got highest regard for your bravery and courage. So you cannot stay at home. That is what Decius says. But as I told you, Caesar is all set to meet the senators on March 14th. They are going to have a meeting, a dinner on March 14th, and excuse me. So thank you one and all. And again, I'll meet you once again at 2 p.m. Oh.
Good morning, everyone. Today I'm going to deliver a lecture on the play written by William Congreve, and it's also called as a restoration comedy. The title of the play is The Way of the World, written by William Congreve. And let us have a brief background regarding the restoration period. And what do you mean by restoration, or what do you mean by restoration drama? And as I have already told you that restoration drama I'm going to teach you today, and this is the important genre in the, what I can say in literature, especially in Restoration period. We have a very a bunch of dramas written by various scholars and writers, and especially dramatists, produced in this particular period. And let us have a look at the background of the Restoration period. The term Restoration drama usually applied to the plays written during the period from 1660 to 1700 or 1710, and is actually the scholars are in dilemma, and some scholars or critics they say the restoration drama refers to, or it may be during the period from 1600 to 1700 or 1710, and let us not discuss about that. But Charles too was restored to English throne in 1660. By 1700 Charles too had died. His brother James had reigned for 5 years and had been deposed in the Glorious Revolution or Bloodless Revolution of 1688. I'm just giving you a background of the Restoration period in a nutshell form. And before you move on to know or discuss or read the play, you should know all these things. So I'm giving you in a nutshell form. And William and Mary had reigned for 12 years, okay, in this particular period, where bloodless revolution took place. It's also called as a glorious revolution in the year 1688. Congreve, William Congreve, I'm talking about a playwright of this novel, of this play. Congreve was not born until 10 years after the Restoration period. The Way of the World, the title of the play, or Restoration comedy or drama, was first presented when he was 30 years old. And by that time, some of the most obvious and most notorious features of that period, mean to say the Restoration period, no longer existed or existed only in much weaker forms. The easiest way to grasp the particular tone of the Restoration period is to think of it as a reaction against Puritanism of Cromwell. Okay, Puritan. In order to know the Restoration period or Restoration drama of comedy, you have to know, something about the Puritanism. And according to the scholars, the Restoration period or the tone or a form of a Restoration period is as a kind of a reaction against Puritanism of Cromwell. He was a playwright, and he belonged to Puritan what a tradition. And the period of the Common, the dissolute court of Charles II, is well known in history and legend. And Puritans were known for rules, what we can say, the very high orthodox or very conservative people. So even Charles II is well known in the history for his Puritanist this what ideology, and even he was considered. It's very well known in the history and legend, and it was the result of a blend of world weariness, cynicism, and debauchery, dominated by a group of exiles, blend of world weariness, okay, who returned to their country, determined to make up for the lean years history had imposed upon them. And in general, the people of England welcomed the change, of course, but such a reaction had only a limited life. Though the people, the public wanted a change in that particular point of time, or when utter anarchy prevails, okay, but still, though the reaction came, but it was of a limited time. The court gradually shifted from undisguised dissipation to the pattern of convert or covert interviews, political or domestic, and clandestine adulteries, that always existed in English courts. I think, hope you are all following it. And the relations between the court and the theatre were more than merely casual. Among Charles II's first acts after he returned to the throne was the reopening of the playhouses. Okay, Charles II, that had been closed by the Puritans. Puritans, they had closed all the theatres, all the entertainment, and because they are highly religious people. But when Charles II ascended the throne, and he started opening and he reopened all the playhouses and theatres, which were closed by Puritans. And he was a patron of the theatre, and he attended frequently and was fond of a very merry play. Merry play means somewhat like which should have a sense of humor, humorous, like that, bit of comedy, like that. So, since in fact in the early years of restoration of the theatre depended very greatly on the support of the nobility and its hangers on, it reflected the taste of the court and its activities completely, whatever was happening. And as we all know that how the ruler or rule is, and the same impact will be on there on the ruled. So this is the relationship between the ruler and the ruled, like that. And since in fact in the early years of the restoration period, the theatre completely depended very greatly on the support of the nobility, royal family, and its angles on. And it reflected the taste of the court and its activities. Of course, because they were completely relying on the patronage of noble families. Okay, and for the courtiers, it's a pleasant, well-bred, complacent, fine, frolic, and good-natured privilege. And if you do not like it, leave it towards that. As one of the Vulture's characters says that this is a pleasant, well-bred kind of thing, what those noble people were expected from the comedies or the dramas which used to produce in that particular period. Actually, this was the statement made by William Vulture's, and he was also a very, very important figure in Restoration what period. And his character, one of his characters, says. Many characters in the comedies were based on the well-known figures in the court. Many episodes report scandals that were known. And by the 1690s, if not earlier, a change in court's attitudes occurred that inevitably affected the theatre. And William and Mary did not follow in the footsteps of the Queen's uncle, Charles II. The overreaction to Puritanism had run its course, and respectability was reasserting its importance in the life of the upper and middle classes. And there we could find the overreaction of Puritanism again started, and which paved the what we can say the break or the crack between the upper and middle class families. And a society for the reformation of manners was organized, and laws were passed to suppress the licentiousness. At the same time, the audience changed. In the 1660s and 1670s, the solid and wealthy middle class people, and especially wealthy middle class what we can say is middle class had ignored or deliberately avoided the theatre, and they just didn't want to go to or theaters or playhouses. They now became an important part of the audience, and this was due to their increased sophistication, but inevitably they imposed their values on the playwrights as well. It's quite common. And the English merchant, that what we can say mercantile class, was not prepared to condone a cynical acceptance of loose behavior. And let us what move on to the playwright of this play, The Way of the World, William Congreve. So far, I was discussing about the background of this period and what was going on, and whether it is a reaction against the Puritanism, and how people used to would suffer, or how what kind of a change they expected in that particular point of time. And let us have a brief biographical details about the playwright. William Congreve, and he was born in Yorkshire, England in 1670, as his father was an officer in the army. And he was an army officer and the commander of a garrison near Cork in Ireland. Congreve was educated at Kilkenny and then at Trinity College, Dublin, there where he was a slightly younger college mate of Jonathan Swift. Okay, he was a what we can say junior to Jonathan Swift, another a giant in the history in the field of English literature. And in 1691, he was admitted to the Middle Temple in London to study law. He was a law graduate and he was a law student. And it is likely that, like a young Whitwood in The Way of the World, his interest in law was only a means to take him to London, the center of all excitement. Okay, by 1692, Congreve was already a recognized member of the literary world. He had been to Dublin and he had been to School of Law, not to study seriously, but he wanted to visit a London and he wanted to, like he created his own biographical character, okay, his own autobiographical character, like himself, in this play, and he is that character name is Young Whitwood. By 1692, Congreve was already a recognized member of the literary world, and his first play, The Old Bachelor, was first acted in January 1693, before he was 23 years old. So imagine before 23, he has already established himself as a literary member, okay, and as a literature. And he was, before 23 years old, he was widely recognized and was triumphantly successful by the publication of his first play, The Old Bachelor. His other plays, The Double Dealer, Love for Love, The Mourning Bride, and The Way of the World, all followed at short intervals. The last of them was presented in March 1700. In the downline of 7 years, he published more than 3 plays. For the rest of his life, Congreve wrote no plays. The Way of the World was not successful on stage, but it is successful in, like, in a literature or literary field, not though it's not on the theatre. And The Way of the World was not successful on the stage, and this disappointment may have had something to do with his decision. He engaged in controversy with Jeremy Collier on the morality of the stage, a frustrating experience. And he suffered from gout and bad sight, and he became an elder statesman of letters at the age of 30. And he was honored by the nobility, highly respected by younger writers. Later, in his later years, Congreve conducted an ambiguous romance with Henrietta, some Duchess of Marlborough. Okay, and when he died, she erected a tablet to his memory in Westminster Abbey, and she also ordered a life-size figure of him and had it seated in his regular place at her table. And the feet were swathed. This is quite interesting about his life, okay, and career. And the feet were swathed in bandages, and the doctor treated Congreve for about daily. This rather surprising memento casts its own odd light on the Duchess, perhaps on Congreve, and certainly on the status of the medical profession at that particular point of time, and how this particular period or restoration had a greater impact on the writer. Normally, all the writers, they were influenced by or inspired by the literature or the zone of literature and the social society where they lived in, on their what we can say, on their profession and even on their life. And let us see what kind of how how was he influenced by a romantic period. Sorry, restoration period, and at the same time restore, and what kind of effect or impact did the restoration comedy have on him. The nature of the audience is a very important influence on all the art forms, theatrical, theatrical art especially. During this restoration comedy or the restoration period, sorry, there, as we all know that comedy means theater will be there and stage enactment would be given more preference. So, but it is only one factor that attempts to explain if such a thing is possible. Restoration drama must consider other threads of influence as well, because the theaters were close between, as I have already told you when while I was discussing about the background of Restoration period. Restoration during before the Restoration era, what happened? The Puritans were closed all the theaters in between 1642 to 1680, sorry, 1660. And there was at one point of time a tendency to treat the Restoration drama as if it had no connections at all with the mainstream of English drama. They were, according to the public who lived in that particular point of time, they thought that there is no connection between Restoration drama and the English drama. And this was on the face of it inaccurate, we can say that. People had seen Jacobean plays, the plays were there to read. And Jacobean plays formed the bulk of the repertoire and repertoire of the two theatrical companies after the Restoration. And you should one is Jacobean plays and Cromwell plays. Okay, varying lengths of time spent in France and other countries, European countries, and they had seen French plays. And we might therefore list the main threads that made up that many splendor thing and what could be the Restoration Common. There existed an English comedic lightness with a touch of humor and some ribaldry. And such comedies are associated with Beaumont and Fletcher, and among others. And see, again, two important characters come up here. They are Beaumont and Fletcher. They used to associate what the touch of humor, lightness, and some ribaldry in their comedies, okay, in their plays. And the plays included satire of social times, the forms, the pedants, and the vain women. Okay, at the same time, the English comic tradition included a different comedy of character styles, like Ben Jonson's play. Like Ben Jonson is known for comedy of humors, and which emphasized the way in which people's characters would be strongly bent in one direction. And Johnson's plays were also intensely satiric, attacking above all the sins of avarice, lecherly, and hypocrisy. These are the three sins and where Johnson plays were concentrated on, and they were also intensely had to deal with. What are the sins? The three sins: avarice, lecherly, and hypocrisy. And there was a strong French influence which led to elegance of plotting, characterization, and acting. The French emphasis on correctness was probably a salutary antidote to the casual attitude to structure of many Elizabethan and Jacobean dramatists. See, these are all things having a greater impact on not only Elizabethan theatres, what playwrights, but also the Jacobean dramatists. And however, one characteristic of French comedy, unity of plot, was never adopted. And this was lacking in Restoration dramas, and this was not inculcated in from what, though they have what extracted everything, all kinds of characteristics or features of French comedy, except one thing: unity of plot was missing in English comedies. And English comedies had plots and subplots, and generally it's an excess of action. Then the third most important influence on the comedy was the patronage of the court. Okay, was the patronage of the court. Very often, what occurred in the play had to be thought of as a private joke, or comprehensibly only to those in the know. And this way, the ways in which these various threads of influence show themselves varied from dramatist to dramatist. Obviously, there will be differences between the dramatist to dramatist regarding their style of writing, literary terms, and of the characters and the plot, subplot, and even in the manner of storytelling techniques. Okay, then one dramatist virtually might borrow a plot from Molière, but then add subplots and make the sympathetic characters closer and their antagonists more crudely vicious to intensify the satire. And the name Misanthrope is a brilliant French comedy, and the Plain Dealer is a brilliant English comedy based on it, but very different indeed. Of course, the Plain Dealer. This is also very important. If you get a time, please go through all this um, plays. This is very important, yeah, interesting. And but very some comic writers attempted to follow in the footsteps of Ben Jonson. Okay, comedy of sorry, plays is called the comedy of. There are two types of comedies here: comedy of manners and comedy of living. Then most of the comedians or comic writers attempted to follow the footsteps of Ben Jonson, and Congreve himself professed an occasional dependence on the Jonson humor. He wanted to adopt that sense of humor, like how Ben Jonson used to adopted in his play, but other dramatists whose works are not generally acknowledged for their plays are not among the best. And they depended on the scandal, bawdry, and the mirroring of their narrow world's activities. And Congreve, William Congreve, he represents the attitude of the period at its best. The Rakhel was no longer a hero. Mirabell, Mirabell is a very important character in this play, and he is a descendant of the Rakhel, but compared with earlier specimens, he displays urbanity, grace, and decor. Let us move on to the play. And what is the plot of the, or what is the problem of the plot here in this play? The title of the play is, once again I will repeat, The Way of the World, written by William Congreve, and it is also can be called as restoration comedy. Because of its striking characterization and brilliant dialogues, it became a successful. Okay, The Way of the World is generally considered to be the finest example of restoration comedy, and as well as one of the last. And then this was the first and last finest example for restoration comedy. And nevertheless, it was not successful. I told you, though it, on the stage it was not successful, but still he can be considered as the finest example of restoration comedy. And it was first presented in 1700, although the English audiences, unlike the French, were accustomed to plots and subplots and to a great deal of action in their plays. They were confused by the amount of activity crammed into a single day. The Way of the World had only a single action. This play has five acts, and but the single action to which everything was related. But it included a scheme, and it has a scheme, plot, subplot, scheme, then hidden agenda, so many things. And when you start reading this play, definitely you will enjoy the play. Yeah, and there, a counterplot of frustrate the scheme, and then moves to find the counterplot. There were too many episodes, events, and rehearsals and discoveries, most of them huddled in the last acts, and they demanded too much attention of the audience. And if the difficulty was ever overcome in a performance, and it was only when actors and director were completely conscious of their role. So every play must start in the traditional phrase, right? And some events must have occurred before the opening curtain. The device is called exposition and used to inform the audience or the reader that these are the events. Could be as obvious as a character addressing the audience directly, or could be an important part of the action. And like as in Sophocles, greatest Greek playwright, Sophocles, Oedipus Rex, or in Ibsen play, Henry Ibsen plays, or in Eugene O'Neill, Long Day's Journey to the Night. These are all best example because in the beginning itself you may not be have the beginning of the play, but somewhere of the middle story it starts. It starts with. Then in restoration drama, exposition was usually straightforward, and two characters might meet and gossip, or a man might talk to a servant. But in the Way of the World, exposition is highly ingenious, and it was long withheld. it is long withheld. And in Act 1, we are told that Mirabel is in love with Mirabel, important character, okay, hero of this play. Mirabel is in love, and that there are some obstacles to the portion. But most of the significant facts are hidden here until Act 2, so that the first part of the play is obscure. Then, just as Mirabel's scheme becomes clear, it loses significance. And for Fenal, another important character, Fenal's counterplot becomes the machinery that moves the action forward, and it is therefore worthwhile to trace the story in chronological order. We have some what we can say problem regarding the plot. Plot means story of the play, okay, and the problem in the plot, loose ends of the plot. Although there seems to be the usual happy ending to this comedy, the way of the world which leaves a number of loose ends that add to the confusion. Okay, and it is very difficult to see where Mrs. Fennell's future is satisfactorily resolved. At one point of time, in Act 5, she says that this is the end of her life with Fennell, and she just wanted to divorce her husband. And that is one comfort. But at the end of the play, it seems that she will continue to live with Penal in an obviously very awkward domestic situation. Somewhere it's confusing. That's what I just wanted to tell you. What are the problems in the plot and how the play ends with a loose ending. And keeping all this in your mind, you have to study this play. And it is not clear that Penal is completely spoiled character. Okay, he could still demand control of Lady Wishfort's fortune or disgrace her daughter. Mirabel's statement that his circumstances are such he must of course comply is hardly a report. Of course, he may be a villainous character, like in the words of Mirabel. And some problems of motivation in the play are also not clear. Why did Mirabel himself marry Mrs. Fennel? Right? Because Mrs. Fennell was his first what lover partner, but still he doesn't want to marry her. Why? And these are so many questions pop up in your mind when you start reading this play, and even we being a serious reader of literature or literary pieces, then obviously you know, you start thinking why is this and why is like that and why does that character behave like that. So Mrs. Fennell, when she was a widow, or Mirabel is not wealthy, and Mrs. Fennell apparently inherited a considerable fortune from her first husband. See, even she was a widow. Is the affair between Mirabel and Mrs. Fennell at an end? Okay, she married Fennell only to forestall scandal if she became pregnant. And if it is at an end, why has it cleared or why has it ceased? And why should she help Mirabel with his wooing of Millamant? And has he perhaps convinced Mrs. Fennell that he is marrying Millamant for money? See, these are the questions you have to answer after reading this play. Then let me give you a list of characters which play a major as well as a minor role. And there are so many real questions pop up when you seriously read this play. Please, I hope that you all read the play. Let me start with a important character, Mirabel. He is a young man, about uh, okay, very young and handsome man who is in love with Millicent. And Millicent, she is a young, very charming lady, and she is in love with Mirabel, but she doesn't want to express it. And she is the ward of Lady Wishford, and niece, and because she is the niece of Lady Wishford's long dead husband, and she is the first cousin of Mrs. Fennell. And Fennell, he is a friend of Mirabel, and he and Mirabel know each other well, and as people do who move in the same circles, and however they do not really like each other, but still, Fennel used to listen to Mirabel whatever he says, and because through Mirabel only he wanted to marry Mrs. Fennel for her, for the sake of money. Then Mrs. Fennel, she is a wife of a Fennel and daughter of Lady Bishop, and she was a wealthy young widow. And when she married Fennel, of course, I have already informed you that Fennel get married to this lady because of money, and she is Millamant's cousin, and was Mirabel's mistress earlier, and presumably after her first husband died. And Mrs. Marwood, she is a Fennel's mistress. Okay, it does appear. See, one thing I wanted to tell you that in this comedy, as I have told you, um, the playwright wanted to show or upholds the loopholes in the society and how people were enjoying their freedom by keeping aside their values. So there is no, you cannot expect to value like their moral values from the characters. They just wanted to enjoy their life, keeping aside all their ideologies or ethics like that. So adultery is also one of the important themes in this play. So many mistresses, many boyfriends like that. Okay, it does appear that Mrs. Marwood, though she was a married woman, she has an affair with Fennel, who is Fennel Mirabel's friend, and that she was and perhaps still is in love with Mirabel. Though she is a Fennel's mistress, she has an eye on Mirabel, and this love is not returned. And can we expect our hero to marry her or love with this lady? No. And young Berthoud, he is a fop, and he came to London from the country to study law. I told you, this may be a caricature of what the playwright himself. True, he came to study law, but apparently found the life of the fashionable man about town more pleasant. And he has pretensions to being a wit. Wit means intelligent. And he quotes Millamant, but not seriously, and she is merely the fashionable belle of the moment. And Petulant, another minor character, he is a young fop, friend of Whitwood, and Lady Wishford, she is an important character. She is a vain woman, 55 years old when the play opens, who still has pretensions to beauty, and she is the mother of Mrs. Fennel and the guardian of Millamant. And she is herself is in love with Mirabel. Imagine, though she is an old woman, she is in love with a young boy. And see, this is what happening in the restoration time. Maybe the playwright wanted to expose all these things. Then another important character, yeah, let me come, Lady Bishop, and she is somewhat highly that class conscious lady. Then another important character is Sir Wilfrid Whitwood, and he is the elder brother of young Whitwood, and he is 40 years old and is planning to take a grand tour of Europe that was usually made by young men. Then Waitwell is one second. Waitwell is also an important character, and he is a Mirabel's valet. And at the beginning of the play, he has just been married to Foible, Lady Wishford's maid, and he masquerades as Sir Roland Mirabel's non-existent uncle and woos Lady Wishford. Foible, Lady Wishford's Lady Wishford's maid, married to Waitwell. Then the Mincing, another minor character. Like, these are all minor characters. And let me tell you the summary of the play in a nutshell, so that without a summary you cannot understand, though I told you the background of the play or some biographical details of the playwright or some character list. And let me tell you in a nutshell form. In this play, we have many characters, and we may ignore the rather fulsome praise of the man to whom it was addressed. The praise is a convention of the time. Some of the comments in the letters, however, of interest. Congreve was obviously uh, what he had written this play, lukewarm reception, and attributed it to the coarse taste of the audience. The playgoers were accustomed to plays. where the characters meant to be ridiculed and were fools so gross. And he used that term in the play that instead of moving our mirth, they ought very often to excite our compassion. Congreve's description of his own purpose when creating comic characters in his play, and he reveals that to design some characters which should appear ridiculous not so much through a natural folly as through an affected wit, which is also false. So, what does it mean? And he needs to say that he quite often he has to create a comic characters with a intelligence. They are all comic characters with a bit of wit. Wit means intelligent. Then he considered the basic definition of characterization with the comedy of manners. A zona, this is a comedy of manners. That's what this play can be considered as a comedy of manners because where the playwright is going to attack the mannerism of the public, the people who lived in that uh, particular point of time in the society, and he is attacking the social setup and he is upholding the loopholes of the society where he lived in. So this is a completely different genre where affectation is the great fault. Unfortunately, continues. Many people could not distinguish between the comic characters in the way of the world are affectations. For Congreve included some that were created as humors. And he is here making the point that he is avoiding the extremes of farce and what we might call slapsticks in this comedy. Hope you have understood. Okay. This is the brief regarding what kind of a play it is and the background of the play and details of the history of restoration time. And let me move on to the summary. The play begins with, or the prologue, we can say. Okay, the prologue was a conventional requirement for all plays because since we are discussing about the play, we have to talk about the prologue. Prologue means normally, what do you mean by the prologue? The beginning, right? Yeah. The prologue was a conventional requirement of the play. This one was delivered by the 65-year-old veteran, the grand old man of the restoration stage. Okay, Congreve did not keep the promises he made in his prologue. He swears that he will not resent one hint of sin, and nor like those peevish words his play maintained, and who to assert their sense your taste arraign. So the dedicatory letter indicates that he did arraign the taste of his audience because it did not approve his play. His statement about what is in his play has more value. Some this is some plot. And what is that some plot? Some new thought. Okay, some humor too. We can understood it as some humor or some new technique or some new experiment he is going to make in this play. And let me, as I have already mentioned, that this play has five acts. So in first act, the curtain rises as Mirabell is defeated by Penal in a dysentery card game at a chocolate house. The play opens in a chocolate house where Mirabell and Penal, both youngsters, they were sitting in a they're sitting in a chocolate house and they are playing card. Okay, so who wins? Who wins over who? Mirabell is defeated by Penal. The conversation reveals that Mirabell is in love with Millamant. Okay, Millamant is the heroine of this play, but is intensely disliked by Millamant's guardian. Who is her guardian? Lady Wishfort. Lady Wishfort's dislike seems to have some justification because Mirabell at one time pretended to court her in order to conceal his love for her niece. So she is 55 years old. Who is not Millamant? Millamant is also young and energetic, beautiful, good-looking lady, pretty woman. But Mirabell is talking about her guardian, Lady Wishfort, and she is 55 years old her vanity was offended when she discovered that Mirabel did not love her. So he is narrating this story to Fenner. When Fenner leaves for a moment, a servant enters and informs Mirabel that his valet married that day. Okay, Mirabel is pleased because his marriage is a necessary prelude to some secret schemes which is not revealed. And Whitwood and Petulant then enter minor characters, and we gain the additional information regarding that Whitwood's elder brother is coming to town to court Millamant. And Whitwood and Petulant are also both courting Millamant, but only because she is the currently reigning belle. And there is further talk of an uncle of Mirabel who is coming to court Lady Wishfort. The men leave for a walk in the park. And regarding this particular act, it contains only partial exposition so that the reader we cannot understand or we don't know what kind of a trouble he is facing. Okay, the relations between Mirabel and Penal are not made clear, and though we consider that they are friends, actually they are not. They dislike each other. Maybe we can say that conveniently cultured people like that. And when there is reason or when there is both are opportunists, okay, and Fenner distrusts Mirabel with good cause, and he suspects that the nature of the friendship between Mirabel and his wife before their marriage. And even he knows, and as I have already mentioned, that Mirabel was once upon a time he was a boyfriend for Fennel's wife, right, Mrs. Fennel. And his wife, he also suspects that Fennel has a doubt, or he suspects that his mistress, Mrs. Margaret, loves Mirabel, or Mirabel is aware of Fennel's suspicions, and of course, these are all things running in his mind, Fennel. For the discovery of this armor, I am indebted to your friend or your wife's friend, Mrs. Marwood. So the actor will put the emphasis on or your wife's friend, so as to suggest that the innocent comment is bound. Fennel pointedly replies that what should provoke her to be your enemy unless she has made you advances which you have slighted. And women do not easily forgive omissions of that nature. See, just I'm reading out few lines from the play. So this is what statement he makes about women. Penal, he says that women do not easily forgive omissions of that nature. So the actor here, the character, must write the lines properly on stage, and he must be more careful than the reader. Other lines also very important, which demand careful reading of this text. The talk about Lady Wishford is not merely casual. She is very important in the subsequent action. The comments about Millamet's character are highly significant. Despite Mirabel's wit and irony, we must realize his sincerity. The speech beginning, I like her with all her faults. Okay, I like her with all her parts is a highly ironic, yet thoroughly convincing admission of the love. And can we expect this kind of statement by anyone? I like her with all her faults, maybe very rarely we get. So the rather mysterious concern with Waitwell's marriage seems strange until later developments. So this in this first act we get introduced to many characters, right? To start with Mirabel, Fenal, and we also have a reference of Millamant, Mrs. Fenal. Then what's that? Another important character, Mrs. Yeah, Lady Wishfort, another important character. Then we also know that in this play, Millamant, she is the pretty woman of that particular place where she can get may what most of the men wanted to marry her, but she doesn't like anyone and she is not easily convinced by so many youngsters or young and handsome men. So then what she is searching for, that is also a very big question. And here in the play, in the very first act, we can also have a statement made by Mirabell, where he ironically states that he has indeed one good quality. He is not exceptious. He will construe an affront into a jest and call downright rudeness and failure. What and his ill language, satire, and fire. And he, uh, though they pretend that they are very good friends, at the end of the play, uh, but at the end of the play, we need to see that he passes this kind of comments, which means that he doesn't trust Hannah. Then Petulant is also very clear case that he comes closer to parents and many other characters, though it is a very minor character, plays a major role. And let me talk about the second act. What happens in this act? The tensions between the characters are exposed, just as Fenal and Mirabell, presumably friends, engaged in a verbal duel and hid a real. And so Mrs. Fennell and Mrs. Marwood now friends. So Mrs. Fennell, she doesn't like Mrs. Marwood. Though Mrs. Marwood was a good friend of her own husband, and Mrs. Fennell, she doesn't know that there is an affair between Mrs. Fennell and Mrs. Marwood. And she doesn't like her, and she feels that she is not a trustworthy woman. And it is true that Mrs. Marwood is the mistress of Mrs. Fennell. Mrs. Fennell's husband. By the same token, she is in love with Mirabell. And see the adultery or licentiousness. Please bear it in your mind this particular term, licentiousness, adultery. This forms the whole play, I think. So everywhere we could find that affair between a married woman and between married woman or a bachelors, or married men and spinsters like that. So one can, from a modern point of view, question the nature of the love of Mirabell and Mrs. Fennell. And after all, if he had loved her, why had he not married her? This is also very important. And she was presumably young, beautiful, wealthy, and available, right? I told you that both of them were ardent lovers at the beginning. And what made Mirabell to reject Fennel? Because she had all the qualities and all the contents what Mirabell was in search for or hunting for. She was young, beautiful, wealthy, available, and but still he doesn't like to settle with her. And this is a big question. It always pop up in everybody's mind. And interesting also is the affair between Fennel and Mrs. Marwood. Fennel seems to love Mrs. Marwood and, after his okay, uh, though but still he doesn't want to marry Marwood. Instead, he wants to marry Millamant, and he wanted to settle with her because she has a huge property which was inherited by her husband, ex-husband, and who is dead in the when the first play, the first act opens. We come to know that her husband was dead. So the scenes between Mrs. Marwood and Mrs. Fennell and other important character Fennell present a real challenge to the actors and especially the readers. We could see that, and before all the readers, we could get so many questions among these things and what is happening in it. And the act includes important revelations of character. A clue to the character of Mirabell is presented when Mrs. Marwood accuses Mirabell of being proud, or Mrs. Fennell reacts strongly or pride, she says, and Fennell describes himself as having a heart of proof and something of the constitution to bustle through the ways of wedlock and this world. And the whole play is well known, or it is filled with beautiful and what we can say catchy statements. Okay, it's known for well versed dialogues, very interesting dialogues. So Penal describes, see, a heart of proof and something of the constitution. This is also very important. And again, just I wanted to tell you how Mirabell describes him as a man of lavish of his morals. Mirabell described Penal as he is a man of lavish of his morals and as interested and professing friend, a false and designed lover. Okay, and he is not an ardent or a trustworthy or lover, but he is a false and designing lover, and one whose wit and outward behavior have gained a reputation with the town only because he is outspoken. So he also says that this is the only thing he has to move, WWO, okay, move other women. So Millamant is a contrast to all other characters, okay, and she is surrounded by intrigue and other and her fortune. She is the object and the potential prize of much of it. And however, she is not herself active in intrigue, her banter or she is a very well-knitted character by William Congreve, though Mirabel wanted to settle with her and he wanted to talk to her, he wanted to be in love, he wanted to fall in love with her, but though she has love towards Mirabel, she doesn't want to express it. So the love story of Mirabel and Millamant differs from what might be expected. And in most love plots, the male has to overcome the unwillingness, so dislike or simple reluctance of other party. But in this particular play, The Way of the World, all the problems connected with the love affair are external. So there is never any feeling that these two are not in love, and Willamette postures, prints, and teases, you could find that it is fun to be desired and desirable. Okay, but these lovers have no internal conflicts. So in Act 3, what we have at her home, Lady Wishford is trying to hide the signs of age with cosmetics applied externally and brand. She wanted to use all branded cosmetics because she doesn't want to look aged. Right? Mrs. Marwood enters and she tells her that Foible was talking to Melville in the park. And while Mrs. Marwood hides in a closet, Lady Wishford attacks Foible with disloyalty. And however, Foible takes advantage of this opportunity to forward Mirabel's plot. So she says that he stopped her only to insult Lady Wishford, who therefore determines to accept Sir Roland due to arrive that day. Okay, this is what happening because Lady Wishford is trying to find a very good match for her niece, who is her niece Willamette. Unfortunately, after Lady Wishford leaves, Mrs. Fennell enters, and she and the Fireball discuss Mirabel's scheme. Mrs. Marwood, still hidden, overhears their conversation. They also mention that Mrs. Fennell was Mirabel's mistress at one point of time, and that Mrs. Marwood is in love with Mirabel, okay, and but he finds her unattractive and she doesn't find her attractive, and Mrs. Marwood's anger is reinforced in the next scene, and when Millamant also accuses her of loving Mirabel and makes biting remarks about her age. Then when the guests arrive for dinner, Petulant and young Whitwood, and then Sir Wilful Whitwood, the elder brother of Millamant's suitor, appear. And in the scene that perhaps comes closer to farce than any other in this play, Sir Wilful Whitwood does not recognize his foppish brother, and young Whitwood refuses to recognize his country bumpkin elder brother. See, there is what we can say internal struggle between brothers. Okay, tug of war. And afterward, Mrs. Marwood, left alone with Fennell, describes Miss Mirabel's plot. He is certain now that he has been a cuckold and wants revenge. See, this is also an important term you should be remembered with cuckold. Cuckold. Mrs. Marwood then outlines a plan for Fennell. Okay, since Lady Wishford has control of Millamant's fortune, and since she is very fond of her daughter, Mrs. Fennell, and he cannot insist that Millamant's money be made over to him on threat of making public his wife's transgression. So there only we could find blackmailing among themselves, and they wanted to showcase their other witnesses. In next Act 4, we have after Lady Wishford is seen preparing for the visit of Sir Roland Whitwood. This Roland Whitwood is visiting Lady Wishford home, in order to woo Willamette, to court Willamette. And Sir Wilful are on stage together. And Sir Wilful, somewhat drunk, but very shy, and he is too bashful actually to complete his proposal to Willamette. And overawed by the aloof lady, he is eager to get away and grateful when she dismisses him. And it is quite obvious that he will not succeed, but he is like with his embarrassment. Very shy and timid guy he is. Immediately after occurs the scene between Willamette and Mirabel. This is very important scene. Okay, this is also known as the bargaining scene. This is very important. It may be asked for 5 marks in your exams. The bargaining scene. Write a short note on the bargaining scene, which occurs in Act 4. Okay, Act 4 in The Way of the World between Willamette and Mirabel, and that is often called the proviso scene. Yeah, bargaining scene as well as the proviso scene. It is known as. They discuss the conditions under which he is prepared to marry her. Openly, he proposes Willamette, and he also wanted to discuss with her, and under which she is prepared to accept him. At the end of the scene, when Mrs. Fennell enters, Willamette admits that she does love him violently. See, there for the first time, Willamette openly says that even he is in love with Mirabel. As Mirabel leaves, the companies are willful, young, Whitwood, and Petulant come in from dinner. They are all drunk. Okay, Sir Wilful, the drunkest of the three. Then announced Sir Roland arrives to woo Lady Wishford, and his wooing bids fair to be successful when a letter is brought from Mrs. Marwood. She tells Lady Wishford of the plot. So, however, Waitwell and Foible between them managed to convince Lady Wishford that the letter is actually sent by Mirabel and is designed as a plot against Sir Roland. Apparently, Lady Wishford is convinced, and at least for that particular moment. So, they are projecting Mirabel as a villain there. Actually, he is not. So next, the last scene, the last act is also very important. The scene, as before, is Lady Wishford's house. Lady Wishford has discovered Mirabel's plot. Foible tries unsuccessfully to make excuses for herself. Fennel now makes his demands. As Millament's fortune of £6,000 was presumably forfeit when she refused to marry a suitor selected for her by Lady Wishford. And he wants the money as his price for not blackmailing his wife's reputation. Okay, Fennel, I told Fennel and Mrs. Marwood has a affair. Both of them, they wanted to loot William's fortune, Mrs. Fennel's fortune, and even Lady Wishford's. So he is blackmailing Lady Wishford that if you don't agree with this condition, I am going to what? Make a, I'm going to conduct a disinformation campaign, or I want to black your daughter's reputation because she had an affair with Mirabel before she got married to me. Okay. He also wants the reminder of Mrs. Fennell's fortune turned over to his sole control. And he insists on Lady Wishford's not marrying again so that he be sole heir. So these terms are very harsh, and Lady Wishford might not be prepared to go along with them except that Mrs. Marwood standing by boards her on by harping on the public disgrace of her daughter, Mrs. Fennell. She was very much worried about her image, family image, status. So when the two maids now reveal that Fennell, in his turn, has been unfaithful to his wife, he refuses to be deterred. And he is willing to be the subject of scandal himself, but he will still be public his wife's reputation. Shame. Then, when Willamette states that she is prepared to marry Sir Wilford, thus meeting the wishes of her aunt and saving her 6,000 pounds, Fennell suspects a trick, but he can still demand control of the balance of his wife's estate. So, and now also the control of Lady Wishford's. At this point, uh, Mirabel presents the evidence which will protect Mrs. Fennell, and at that point of time of her marriage, they had judged Fennell's character correctly, and Mrs. Fennell secretly signed over her fortune to Mirabel's control, and there is therefore no money which Fennell can successfully obtain. And in great anger, Fenal and Mrs. Marwood leave the scene. Then, vowing dire vengeance, Lady Wishford, having discovered that Fenal was a villain and that Mrs. Marwood, her friend, was also not a true friend, and who is now prepared to forgive Mirabel, and Millamant can now marry him with her aunt's consent. It is on this happy moment, or but somewhat indeterminate note, that the play ends with this, and the play ends all is well that ends well. I hope you understood. Um, Let me discuss the important themes in my next session. Important questions also. Thank you.
Good afternoon, dear students. I welcome you all to this session, in the noon session, the second session, the third session, and certainly that you all are enjoying our online classes. And this is Dr. Nataraj, the faculty, the chairperson of the department. As addressed you all yesterday for two topics, I have taught you Bacon's essays as well as Keats and Donne's poetry. And today in this session, I would like to teach you one of the greatest dramas, the plays of Renaissance literature, Elizabethan literature, English literature rather. It is considered as a masterpiece in the world of dramas, in the world of plays. That is Christopher Marlowe's The Tragical History of Dr. Faustus. Dear learners, by now you all aware of the genesis of plays, the dramas, and you all know the great dramatists like William Shakespeare, Christopher Marlowe, and Ben Jonson. They are considered as Elizabethan playwrights. And today's class, I'm going to teach you a well-known the play that is Dr. Faustus, The Tragical History of Dr. Faustus, written by Christopher Marlowe. And Christopher Marlowe, he is considered as one of the university wits, like Thomas Nash, and then Lilly, and many other university wits. And he's also considered as one of the best, the university wits. And he known for his extraordinary subject matters. The subject matters like, the thirst for knowledge. The main protagonist of this play, that is Dr. Faustus. Dr. Faustus is a protagonist of the play, is an important character in the play. His quest for knowledge, that is a motto, the theme of this play. The Dr. Faustus is a protagonist of this play. I repeat. And there is one important component that Dr. Faustus, our character, his quest for an extraordinary knowledge, that is necromancy. That is necromancy. What do you mean by necromancy? That is to learn to arise the devils, to practice devils, practice the black magic, and arise dead people. So that is called as a black art, the black magic. So though he's a scholar, he's a university vet, he's a scholar, though he's a master of many subjects, he's a theologist, he knows many art and literature, but despite of all that, he thirsts for a knowledge called necromancy. Necromancy, he is forbidden. The subject which is not supposed to be learned. And the human being, he's not supposed to learn that subject matter. It is forbidden subject, necromancy, the black art. But despite, he goes against God and he learns that is art, and he pledges his soul for 24 years in the world of devils. And ultimately, how he suffers a lot these 24 years, and to just learn the worldly pleasure, to just know the world knowledge. to enjoy the worldly power, and he go against God and he paid for it. And let us see how this play goes on. Let me introduce you these characters first. The characters are here. See, here the first important character is Dr. Faustus. And the Dr. Faustus, there are two of his friends, that is Waldus Cornelis. They're the two friends of Dr. Faustus. And there is one person called Wagner. Wagner is a servant of Faustus. And there are another two important character, that is a Lucifer. Lucifer, he's a head of hell. He's a devil. He's a devil. He's a head of a hell. And his servant, that is Mephistopheles. So both the Mephistopheles and the Lucifer, they're the devils, and they're the head of the devils. Lucifer is the head of the devils, and Mephistopheles is his servant. And there are another characters like good angel and evil angel, the seven deadly sins, who are very symbolic in this play. The entire play is a very symbolic in terms of introducing some new techniques like a morality plays and the mystery plays. I must tell you what do you mean by morality plays. And this play considered as a morality play as well as Renaissance play. When you do understand the tragical history of Dr. Faustus, as the title itself tells you, the tragical history of Dr. Faustus. So how does he lead his life? What are the things that led him to the tragic life? That is very important, because I told you, he went against the God. That's the reason that he paid heavily for whatever he has done. Because of his own arrogance, because of his own conceit, because of his own hubris, who tends to make a mistake. Being a human, he went against the God. That is a major mistake that Dr. Faustus has committed. So, and we have a seven deadly sins, and these are very important characters. There are many other minor characters. I tell you as long as I just go on elaborating the play. But as of now, the Dr. Faustus is a protagonist. His servant is the Wagner, and his two friends, that is the Waldus and Cornelis. And another side we have the devil characters like Lucifer and Beelzebub and the Mephistopheles. And Lucifer is the head of the hell, and the Mephistopheles is servant. And then you will have a good angel and the bad angel and the seven deadly sins. The very important characters here. And then I was talking about this concept, the concept called a Renaissance play. How this play, Dr. Faustus, is considered as a Renaissance play. Dear learners, I must tell you this juncture that the term Renaissance, its genesis, it is basically developed from Italy. The Italian Renaissance period. This is a very, very important when you read English literature. The Italian Renaissance period. What do you mean by Renaissance? See, this is what. See, the Renaissance movement, it is much to do with the English literature. In terms of growth of the drama, the term Renaissance is a very, very applicable. Let me give you a brief introduction about the Renaissance time. Because this play, it's a very significant play in the history of world literature. It needs much more background to understand than getting to the summary of the text. Within the two periods, and today in the afternoon session, I try to cover this text as much as possible. But your introduction is very important. It is such an outstanding play, and with lots of a background associated with the play. And what do you mean by Renaissance? How do we call this play as a Renaissance play? This is very, very important. Renaissance was in essence an intellectual rebirth. It is an intellectual rebirth movement. Renaissance movement, it is an intellectual rebirth movement. It showed itself in the effort of the individual to free himself from the rigid institutions of the Middle Ages. Those were the days during the early 15th century. The life of the people was so rigidified. The entire England was completely rigid with certain puritanic values. The kind of the rigidity of the institutions, the Christianity. A lot of Christian values are interwoven in the play. And feudalism and the church, and to assert its right to live, to think. One need to have certain individual self-live. I should live my life as it is. So that kind of freedom was not given the early days in the 14th to 15th century. The rigidity of the Christianity or a Puritanism and all that. So Dr. Faustus, he intends to live his life however he wished. So to express himself as he pleased. So that is a Renaissance feeling, the rebirth, the knowledge. to celebrate the individuality, celebrates his own self and life and all that. So the see here, the expressions of medievalism was too violent against the humanism. There was no scope to celebrate one individuality. It doesn't mean one should go against the God. It doesn't mean that one should go against the norms of the society. But whereas our Dr. Faustus did it. But whereas, how did he do that? He did that to go against the God. He pledges his soul to the devil for 24 years to enjoy his worldly pleasure, lust, leisure, pride, whatever, everything, all the the characters, whatever there in the man's mind, could be angry and whatever. So in order to enjoy the worldly power and the lust and wealth and all that, Dr. Faustus, the great scholar of the Wittenberg University, he was a great scholar of the Wittenberg University. He is a theologist who is a master of all knowledge. He's a theology in the sense, the one who knows all the subject of knowledge, one who knows everything. So Dr. Faustus is such a person, and he go against the God. And what happens? So violent against humanism, the freedom and directness. That was not possible during that time. And then what happened? Further, these were the acceptable gospel of the new man of the Renaissance. But the Renaissance movement has paved the way for all this. So one has to celebrate his own knowledge and individuality. That is the concept. God was dethroned. The man rose newly awakened. The first born of this new humanism was individualism. So here, Dr. Faustus, he wanted to celebrate his individualism, and he paid heavily for this. And what happened now? These are the concepts that you should keep in your mind. That is, the Renaissance, it is something to do with the essence of intellectual rebirth. Okay, this one, and it was badly required in the early development of the drama in English literature. And one more thing I must tell you at this juncture, that see, this refers to the Dr. Faustus. He says that one should never deep dwell into subject which are forbidden or mysterious subject are as rightly forbidden by the heavenly power. There are certain subjects which are forbidden. Our subject a subject like necromancy. He studies the world of the devils. Devils subject. Black art, magic subject. Supernatural elements create subject. The subject which is completely against the God. Anta subject necromancy subject the black magic subject Dr. Faustus was fascinated by the subject. The great scholar has over a period of time become like the kind of a butt of a ridicule. It became like a buffoon who people have been criticized him. Such a great scholar, and he has become a magician. He wanted to become a magician. He did a magic, and he did necromancy and all kind of supernatural elements. And he led a tragic life. If you remember what Aristotle says in his Poetics, a tragic hero must have a kind of a amartia, a flaw, a tragic flaw one should have. Our Dr. Faustus' tragic flaw, the weakness, the amartia that he had is the greedy, the quest for knowledge, to know more about devils, and knowingly or unknowingly. He did that, and he pledges his soul for the devils, and he enjoyed life for 24 years, and ultimately the time when he died, his life is completely pathetic, and we all pity and fear for the acts developed in the play. And dear learners, let me come back to the text, and I keep this one concept, that is how this play considered as a mystery and morality play. This concept I'll deal with you once I complete the text, probably in the afternoon session. But now, coming back to the text, let me not, without much further ado, without much further delay, let me get into the text. And because within 2 hours, I should somehow complete the text by giving you the entire information in a nutshell. And this is what it's all about. So I have my own concept here to make around some 30 to 40 points to complete this text within the given time, within the 2 hours by today. So I'm just going to deal the text. See, the moment the play begins, whom do we see first? It is a chorus. So in the play, the chorus is introducing the character that is Dr. Faustus. So hope you all listening me. Are you getting my point? Will you just yes? It is okay. Are you getting the introductory remarks? So far I gave you a little introduction about Dr. Faustus, the play, and all that. So now coming back to the text. See, this is what happens. See, the chorus, when the play begins, the chorus tells the audience. The chorus, it tells the audience that what? It tells the audience that the play will simply show the changes of fortunes in the life of Dr. Faustus. The fortunes and the misfortunes had happened in the life of the Dr. Faustus. The chorus is going to give a brief introduction about the character. It is quite common in every place. Even if you look at in our Indian dramas, like a Sutradhara, the chorus, who comes in the beginning and tells something about the plays and the character, and it disappears. In the same way here, the chorus introduces a character called the Dr. Faustus to all of us, and he disappears. So how does the chorus introduces this character here? This is how. The chorus tells the audience that the play will simply show the changes of fortunes in the life of Dr. Faustus. He was born to a humble parents in the town of Rhodes in Germany. He was born in Germany, and his parents are very humble. Okay, the place called Rhodes, the towns of Rhodes in Germany. So this is his place. Rhodes is his place, and the Germany is a country, and where he was born to a humble parents. He's a typical middle class man, and he's a great scholar when he goes to Wittenberg to study, to doctors, and to become a great theologist. And in the Germany. So when he came of his age, he was sent to Wittenberg, okay, to study in the university there. Very soon, he attained high proficiency in theology. As I told you, he's a theologist, or the one who knows all branch of studies is considered as a theologist. He's a theologist, and he knows everything. Was given a doctor's degree, and he got his doctorate degree. He soon became a master of almost all the branches of knowledge and surpassed all other scholars. He surpassed all other scholars, and he became a master of everybody. And he masters of almost all the branches of knowledge. But he became puffed with a pride and arrogance when he got his doctorate, when he became a theologist, and he's puffed with, he's filled with, puffed in the sense like filled with the pride and arrogance. And this man has become completely arrogant and the pride and conceit. Okay, this is how the Dr. Faustus, he became victimized of his own. He became prey for his own arrogance and the pride. And what happened? And stooped very low to practice the black art. And such a great scholar suddenly stooped down to learn the black magic, the black art of magic, and which he is not supposed to do that. He shouldn't have accepted this to study, but our character, the protagonist, he did that to study that, this magic. And gradually, on the next act 1, so now the chorus, it disappears, and now the act 1 starts, because we know that when it is a play, there are acts, there are scenes. So this play consists of 4 acts: act 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If chance permits, let me complete at least act 3 today, and 2 and 4 and 5 will take up in the known session, and just now. So what happened? So now in the act 1, what happens? I'll just give you a very thematic background, because this is such a great classic text, and you people should aware of this text, because exam point of view also, it will be a mandate question for you to write for the 10 marks. As you all know that probably by now you are familiar with this subject, because you have written your assignments. Probably I'm sure that you have these questions might have been appeared for your internals, and you are aware of this text. And coming back to this, act 1, what happened? Dr. Faustus is sitting in his room and speaking to himself. So this is called as a soliloquy. Soliloquy in the sense, the man who sits himself and he talks to oneself. He's in a room. So Dr. Faustus, this play, it is known for this soliloquy and a kind of a dramatic monologues, especially a soliloquy, one who talks to himself in a dramatic way. So the Dr. Faustus is talking to himself, and he's to decide about his future course of studies. So what am I supposed to do? I became a theologist. I'm a student of Wittenberg University. So how do I take up my further study? So the Dr. Faustus, he's going to think about himself, and in a soliloquy way, he talking to himself. And he now examined the scope and utilities of all these different subjects. And he talk about the various subject matters here. And he thinks about, logic fascinates him. ಲಾಜಿಕ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಂಗೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಇಷ್ಟ, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಸೊ ಫ್ಯಾಸಿನೇಟ್ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾನೆ ಲಾಜಿಕ್. But the aim of logic is just to argue well and nothing else. And you keep on arguing about all petty issues, nothing else. Then keep aside this logic. Agadre logic beda pakkake ittona anta ankoltane. Then he minds his switch over to other subject called physics or medical sciences. And he thinks that, and which has already mastered. I'm already mastered about it. But at the end, the science is only good health, although it can bring him wealth and fame. Nothing else. It gives you a wealth and fame, and that's it, and nothing else. So he's not even happy with the sciences. And law is meant just for settling with a petty dispute. Should I take up this law course and I just deal with the petty issues again, disputes? So leave aside the law too. And divinity may be better than others. He's talking to himself in a room. Then shall I take up the divinity? Shall I take up the divinity? But divinity says that wages for sins is death. The divinity talks about the death, sin, and all that. God, sin, and death. Then let us also leave aside. And then, after a prolonged deliberations, he talks about medicine, law, logic, and all that, and divinity. After prolonged deliberation, Dr. Faustus, he decides that finally he makes up his mind to study with all seriousness necromancy or the black art of magic. ಒಂದು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡೋಣ, ನನಗೆ ನೆಕ್ರೋಮ್ಯಾನ್ಸಿ ಓದ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಹೇಗೆ, ಈ ಬ್ಲಾಕ್ ಮ್ಯಾಜಿಕ್ ನ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಹೇಗೆ, ಯಾವಾಗ್ಲೂ ಮಾಟ ಮಂತ್ರ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬ್ಲಾಕ್ ಮ್ಯಾಜಿಕ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಲೆಟ್ ಮಿ ಬಿ ವೆರಿ ಹ್ಯಾಪಿ, ಐ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಗೆಟ್ ವಾಟ್ ಎವರ್ ಐ ವಾಂಟ್ ಅಂತ ಡಿಸೈಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾನೆ. He decided to learn the black magic, the necromancy, and he decided, after all, namgu hage tane, the way there is a curiosity, we want to learn that art. Probably you might have learned a lot of information on, you might have watched a movie like Harry Potter's, the way they also do certain black magic and black art and all that. Though it is a one subject which fascinates us more than any other subject, isn't it? So you wanted to learn the black magic, but you should know the repercussions of all this. You should know the kind of how this the result of black magic, the implications of the black magic. You should not be neglect that side. So he's quite sure that a person depth in his art of magic becomes as powerful as a mighty as a god. The one who knows the magic very well, he is as equivalent to God. That is the most dreaded thing that he has committed. He should not have assumed that. Can anyone become an equivalent to God? No, but the Dr. Faustus' pride and conceit, the arrogance, made him to think so that. And so much so that he decided to learn the black magic. And Faustus then asked his servant, the Wagner, to go to his friend Valdez and Cornelis. Tana servant idanalla, Valdez heltane, Wagner heltane. See, these are all happening in the Act 1. Dear learners, hope you're getting the entire, the picture. Dear learners, certain things you've been posting, like page number and all that. You better listen the entire text, whatever my narration. I think there'll be more enough for you to prepare for your exam point of view, and later on you can just get into the text. If you can't go simultaneously looking at the text up. So this is the text of Dr. Faustus. It's a very small text, with almost like within 100 pages. It's a small text, but it's a world classics today, the best play, the world literature. And anyhow, you just listen me carefully. So what happened? So he asked his servant, the Wagner, hogbuttu nanna snehitiridaralla yaru, the Valdez and Cornelis, avaribbana karಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತೀಯಾ, will you just go and fetch them? I need to discuss with them. I need to negotiate this subject with them. So Valdez and Cornelis and request them to come and meet me. And then he considered their advice to be a great help to him to learn this art. For me, the advice of my friends is a very important to learn this black magic. In case if they agree for me to take up this course, I'll certainly go with it, because I trust my friends. Whatever they say, it will be for my favor. And then when he's left alone, immediately the good angel and the evil angel appears before him. There are two angels, good and the bad angels. Could be there the man's conscience, ಒಂದು ಮನುಷ್ಯನ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಜ್ಞಾ ಸ್ಥಿತಿಗೆ ಬರುವಂತ ಕೆಲವು ಫೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಗಳು, ಗುಡ್ ಏಂಜಲ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದ ಬ್ಯಾಡ್ ಏಂಜಲ್. ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ಟೂ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಹಿಯರ್. ಕನ್ಸೈನ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬೋದು, ಆತ್ಮಸಾಕ್ಷಿಗೆ ಬರುವಂತ ಎರಡು ವಿಚಾರಗಳು. ಸೊ ಗುಡ್ ಏಂಜಲ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದ ಎವಿಲ್ ಏಂಜಲ್ ಅಪಿಯರ್ಸ್ ಬಿಫೋರ್ ಹಿಮ್. ಎರಡು ಅವನ ಮುಂದೆ ಬರುತ್ತವೆ, ಬಂದು ಹೇಳುತ್ತೆ, ಐ ಟೋಲ್ಡ್ ಯು ದಿಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಮಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಮೊರಾಲಿಟಿ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್. ಇದನ್ನ ಮಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಈ ತರ ಕೆಲವು ಒಂದು ಏಂಜಲ್ಸ್ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಗಳು ನಮ್ಮ ಮುಂದೆ ಬರುವಂತ ಫೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಕೂಡ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಮಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿ ಪ್ಲೇಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಆ ಡೆಫಿನೇಷನ್ ನಾನು ನಿಮ್ ಕೊನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಬರ್ತೀನಿ, ಹೌ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್ಡ್ ಅ ಮೊರಾಲಿಟಿ ಪ್ಲೇ, ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಬಿಫೋರ್ ನಾನು ಈಗಲೇ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಿ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ನಾಟ್ ಬಿ ಏಬಲ್ ಟು ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ಐ ಟೆಲ್ ಯು ಇನ್ ದ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿಸ್ ಲೆಕ್ಚರ್. So, and the farmer strongly advised him to study scriptures, putting aside the cursed book of magic. Good angel and Dr. Faustus, you do one thing, he advise you one thing, study scriptures of God, religious script. You better study the religious script and put aside this book of magic. Book of magic you will never get anything that leads, that damns you, that kills you. Leave aside. But the later, the evil angel tells him that encourages him to carry on with his study in that black art, as a proficiency in that will make him as powerful as God on this earth. The evil angel, you'll be as powerful as a God. That makes you a proficient in that. You better take up this black magic art. Go ahead. Don't give up this black art. The evil angel tells. But whereas the good angel tells him not to take up that issue. Whereas you read the scriptures of Holy Script, read the religious script. So these are the two, good angel and the bad angels, comes quite often to threaten him, to instruct him to what to do and what not to do. Are you able to follow this story? Are you getting my point? Okay, and don't think about the exam, Chaitanya Narayan. So when does the exam starts? This is a class, you listen the lecture first. Don't worry about the exams. They will inform you regarding your exam date further. Students, okay, don't put all unnecessary questions over here regarding the exam dates and all that. It's just listen the lectures. And what happened? And after the departure of these angels, he feels inspired to study this art and begins to dream of achieving supernatural power and performing miraculous feast and spirits of hell at his command. So evil angel's words are inspired to him, and he decided to do some magic, and he inspired by the words of evil angel, because he listens first. So this is a tragic flaw of Dr. Faustus. Okay, and then gradually, meanwhile, the friends came, both the Wilders and Cornelius. They arrived, and the Faustus tells him that he has discarded all of the subject of studies in favor of necromancy. Why did you do that? Why have you discarded every subject matter? Why have you taken up your necromancy? You should not have done that. That is, they informed to Dr. Faustus, and Faustus informed them that it is magic, and the magic only, that has enraptured his soul, and he is fully determined to learn this great art. Dear friends, don't ever discourage me, because I have completely decided to take up this course of necromancy. I should summon the devils. I should do a black magic. I should summon the souls of the dead people. This is important. I should summon the souls of the dead people. Sattavara Atmavanna jate nan matadbeku annodana ambalistane. Yaru Dr. Faustus. Which he should not have done that. It's a black magic. You might have heard it in the movies too. So he says that my mind is determined to learn this great art. I should learn this art. He requests them to give him lesson on magic so that he may arise the spirits of the underworld. So please, you guide me to go to the underworld and just help me to take up this necromancy further and not to discourage this issue. So what happened? Ultimately, they have learned that yes, this man is become very determined, and he's not going to change his mind, and he's very firm about it. And then they agreed and further encourage him to telling that with the spirits at his beck and call, he would be able to work wonders and get all his desires fulfilled. So meanwhile, what happens? The Dr. Faustus, the Wagner comes in the second scene. After that, the Wagner comes in the second scene. The servant of the Dr. Faustus appear in the scene. The two friends of Faustus ask about his whereabouts, but the servant evades the questions and starts, jizzling. Wagner, he makes fun of these people. He makes fun of Dr. Faustus and everybody, and simply went on. And these two friends, they were so shocked to learn that the Faustus is enjoying the company of the two notorious persons skilled in the black art. So the Wilders and Cornelius, They were very, very shocked. They were mortified, and they have been petrified to know that Dr. Faustus, in scene 2, is enjoying the two notorious person who is killed in black art. They are none other than the Lucifer and the Mephistopheles. He is amidst of these two people, and they decided, and the friends of the Dr. Faustus, they decided that to inform the rector of the university. They decided to inform to the head of the institute, the university, so that he may do something to reclaim Faustus. So probably the rector may, changes the minds of the Dr. Faustus, and they can reclaim him. They can bring him back, and from the world of these devils. So what happened further? So all of a sudden, Mephistopheles comes, because he is familiar with the two people, that's the Lucifer and the Mephistopheles. They're the devils, because he surrendered himself and he decided to do some magic. And all of a sudden, Mephistopheles, the great lieutenant of the Prince of Hell, is up before him in an ugly shape. So Mephistopheles appears on the scene, and he talks about him and all that. And then Dr. Faustus starts talking about himself again. So once the Mephistopheles disappear, the devil disappear, again Dr. Faustus is talking to himself, and he is very happy to find that there is a great power in the world of magic uttered by him. And Mephistopheles tells Dr. Faustus such a way that he's inspired him to take up this course of necromancy. And even Dr. Faustus also acknowledged, and he said that yes, magic gives everything. Magic makes a man, very happy. And gradually, what happened? The Faustus tells that he has already done so, that he has completely surrendered to the devils. So here the two angels again came, and good angel instruct him, whereas the evil angel again fascinates him. The friends came and try to warn him not to take up this course, and whereas Dr. Faustus says that I am almost surrendered myself to these devils. I'm fascinated by it, and nothing to be changed, nothing change ever. And year afterwards, I am under the hands of these two people, devils, that is Lucifer and the Mephistopheles. Lucifer is the head of the hell, and Lucifer is his servant. Lucifer is a beck and call. The moment Dr. Faustus wants something to see, to do some magic, Mephistopheles is there to get everything, whatever he demands from him. You getting my point? Are you getting the story? Okay, Malatesh has been, okay, you've been, okay, good, very nice. If you're able to follow me, I'm doubly happy. Okay, very nice. Okay, surrender to the devil. I'm always surrendered to the devil. That's what Dr. Faustus tells to people. And then when Dr. Faustus wants to know more about his master, that is a Lucifer, Dr. Faustus wants to know more about the Lucifer, the master of Mephistopheles. So Mephistopheles tells him that the Lucifer was also an archangel, but he was thrown out of the kingdom because of his impertinence and inordinate ambitions. Lucifer is also a man once upon a time, and because of his kind of evil deeds, he was thrown to the heaven. He has become a part of the heaven. Anta Mephistopheles is telling to Dr. Faustus. Lucifer is also an angel, and he was also an angel, and later on he was thrown into hell. Anta Mephistopheles is giving an introduction to Dr. Faustus, and then they're now doomed to hell forever. And Mephistopheles then tells him with a remorse that to lose heavenly joys and bliss means living in hell and perpetually. And Mephistopheles tells him, see, now you have to completely forbidden your heavenly thing. Now you are the part of hell, and you enjoy perpetually whatever that you get within these 24 years. So the Dr. Faustus is surrendering himself for 24 years. He pledges his soul for the devils. And then, but Faustus informs him that he's, determined to surrender his soul to the devil on one condition, that he be permitted to live for 24 years, leading a life full of unbridled, uncontrolled sensuous pleasure of the world with the Mephistopheles of his constant companion. You should not disturb me, he tells. Okay, I surrender my life for you for 24 years. Within these 24 years, you should not disturb me. You should leave me uncontrollably. I enjoy for my own whims and fancies, and you are my servant. The moment I demand something, you should fetch me. This is the kind of a contract they made between the Mephistopheles, Lucifer, and the Dr. Faustus. And he say that you are my companion to carry out all his orders and fulfill his desires. Next, he asks Mephistopheles to go to his masters and carry his message. Just go and tell your Lucifer that, yes, I'm going to surrender yourself. On one condition, that you should never ask me whatever I do. I should enjoy all kind of pleasures, everything. And he made it, his things are very clear. And now, Act 2 starts. So far, I have described you whatever happens in the Act 1. Now, Act 2, begins. So what happens in the Act 2? Okay, the Act 2 like this. Begins with a midnight. Midnight is approaching. Dr. Faustus is alone in his study. The Dr. Faustus is still studying. It is a midnight. It starts with the Act 2. He's once more a prey to difference and vacillation, and again he has a lot of hallucination kind of a things, and he quite often fall prey because his mind is fascinated only for this kind of evil practices, nothing else. He's talking to himself. The Dr. Faustus, I told you, it's a soliloquy. Soliloquy in the sense, the one who speaks to himself. He's talking to himself. Dr. Faustus ultimately feels there is no use of thinking of heaven and God, as nothing can save him now from eternal damnations. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವೆಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ, ಒಂದು morality ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. Dr. Faustus is understanding the another side of life. Why did I choose this bad angel? Why did I choose this the kind of the kind of God and this kind of the devils and all that? Why my mind turned into this kind of practices? Am I going to wrong against all this? Am I going to the wrong against the nature? Am I doing it wrong? So the lot of kind of a fluctuation, lot of deliberations in his mind, Dr. Faustus. Did I really decide the right thing? ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ವಿಚಾರಗಳು ಅವನ ಮನಸ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ one after another, they just go on and on. And he thinks that probably fine day there is an eternal damnation of myself. ನಾನು ಶಾಶ್ವತವಾಗಿ ಹೊರಟೋಗ್ಬೋದು ಈ ಪ್ರಪಂಚ ಬಿಟ್ಟು. ನಾನು ಡಿಸಿಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ಸರಿಯಾಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ. There are lots of internal conflict between Dr. Faustus and himself. And what happened? The good angel and the bad angel appear to him once again. The farmer urges him to give up this kind of a nefarious art. Nefarious art andre a criminal art, a wicked art. Idanna bitbidu anta good angel tells him. And you better mercy on the God. Devrina kelko tappu ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ, don't go against anta good angel repeatedly tells him. But the bad angel tells him that exhorts, strongly encourages. Exhorts andre strongly encourages him to seek only wealth and power. Where do you go? Where do you live in this kind of a mundane life? What is there in that? You better enjoy your wealth and power. If you study the necromancy, you enjoy the power and all that, wealth and everything. Otherwise, he would prove himself a fool by believing in false and fancifying ideas about the hell, heaven, or God's mercy. So probably this man doesn't know these people have been fascinating about this kind of a hell. But probably he became a fool a fine day. Who knows that? Let's see further. How he succumbs to the temptations of the power and the pef. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಎವಿಲ್ ಏಂಜಲ್ ಎವಿಲ್ ಏಂಜಲ್ ಹೇಳುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಕೆಟ್ಟ ಏಂಜಲ್ ಹೇಳುವಂತ ಮಾತುಗಳಿಗೆ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಫಾಸ್ಟಸ್ ಹಿ ಬಿಕಮ್ ಸಕಮ್ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ದ ಒನ್ ಹೂ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ನಾಟ್ ಥಿಂಕ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ such a situation where he invariably accept this kind of evil practices. He was succumb. He was not able to decide. He is in a condition to the temptations of the power and the pef. Pef ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ money or any power gaining dishonestly. ಅದು ತಪ್ಪು ದಾರಿಯಿಂದ ಹಿಡಿದು ಸಂಪಾದಿಸುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಅಧಿಕಾರ, ಮನಿಯನ್ನ ನಾವು ಪೆಫ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. So the Dr. Faustus, he decided to do that, and he should not have done that. And what happens further? After the departure of the angels, Mephistopheles appears. Mephistopheles, he appears after the departure of these two angels. And what did he do now? And informed Dr. Faustus that he has secured Lucifer's approval to be his constant companion and serve him by all means provided. He is prepared to surrender his soul to the devils and renounce the Trinity in deed of gift to be written with his own blood. I spoke to my master, Lucifer. Who is saying? Mephistopheles is saying. Mephistopheles is telling to Dr. Faustus, Dr. Faustus, I spoke to my master, Lucifer. He's agreed that I will be your companion. And one condition, the condition, you have to give a deed. On the deed in a ಬರಿಬೇಕು, ಒಂದು ಪ್ಲೆಡ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಒಂದು ಡೀಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು. ನೀವು 24 ವರ್ಷಗಳು ಕೂಡ ನನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಸ್ವಂತಿಕೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಐ ಎಂಜಾಯ್ ಆಲ್ ದ ಅರ್ತ್ಲಿ ಪ್ಲೆಜರ್, and after 24 years you can take my soul away. I can also become like the kind of a devil. I will be in the world of a devil. I will also become a Satan, like a devil. So you can take my soul away. Anta neen barkodbeku. You need to write it. You should pledge your soul. Pledge andre gottalla. You have to pledge it. Ada iduvanthadu. You should pledge your soul. And after that, you need to, I'll write. And how he has to pledge his soul? He has to write it through the blood. Blood alli barkodbeku. Of his own blood in the. So this is the condition. So what happened? So he comes, Mephistopheles comes and tell, you write with his own blood. And Dr. Faustus, he decides it. He accepts the terms and conditions and writes the deed after stabbing his own arm. He takes a knife and stab his hand, and the blood chills, the blood shed down, and he takes the blood and he writes his deeds. And decided to give his soul for after 24 years to this Lucifer and the Mephistopheles. And what happens? At first, the blood congeals. The moment the blood drops from his hand, iga avaru pennalli bareyagilla avana dehada raktadinda baribeku enna nanu 24 years I will enjoy this worldly pleasure, everything, lust, power, wealth, whatnot, everything, magic and everything. After 24 years, you have the right to take my soul away. How does he write? How he has to write? He has to write it through blood. So the blood became congeal. Congeal andre heppagat bidutte. Gatti agbidutte blood. Avana dehada blood gatti agbidutte. The blood become congeal. It is a kind of a Christian morality is banbidutte. The crucifixion of Jesus Christ. The concept so he is against the God. When the blood congeals, that means the God instructs him not to do that. ಆದ್ರೂ ಕೂಡ ಆ ಒಂದು ಕಂಜೀಲಾದಂತ ಬ್ಲಡ್ ಅನ್ನ ಅವನು ಮತ್ತೆ ಲಿಕ್ವಿಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. ಹೇಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾ? ಲೆಟ್ಸ್ ಸಿ ಫರ್ದರ್. And at the first the blood congeals and makes him perplexed. When the blood congeals and he has become completely perplexed, ಅಯ್ಯೋ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡೋದಪ್ಪ, ಬ್ಲಡ್ ಕಂಜೀಲ್ ಆಗ್ಬಿಡ್ತಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಭಯ ಪಟ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾನೆ. The moment he has becomes quite perplexed, and then but Mephistopheles warms him, and the writing is done as required, and he takes the burning coal and puts on the congealed blood. ಉರಿತಿರುವಂತ ಬೆಂಕಿಯ ಕಡ್ಡಿಯಿಂದ ಅದನ್ನ ಟಚ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, the congealed blood became watery, and he takes the blood and he writes to pledge his soul for 24. After 24 years, he can take his soul away. And within the 24 years, he'll enjoy all the worldly pleasure. And then what happens further? But the Mephistopheles warms him up, and writing is done as required. Okay, so what happened? And according to the Mephistopheles, terms, the Mephistopheles will be the beck and call for Dr. Faustus for 24 years, serving him to his entire satisfaction. Whatever you demand, I am there to satisfy you. Who says? Mephistopheles says to Dr. Faustus, and he writes it in the paper. And after this stipulated period, Lucifer will get the full right to carry his soul to the hell for eternal damnation. Mephistopheles tells him, look, Dr. Faustus, after these 24 years, and Lucifer, the head of the kind of a hell, a narakadipati anta idane, the head of the hell will come. The Lucifer will come, and he'll get the full right. He will have a complete right to carry your soul to the hell for eternal damnation. Eternal damnation is ಶಾಶ್ವತವಾಗಿ ನೀನು ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಇದ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀಯ, and you will never come back anta they have made everything clear now. And after that, he is now very keen to have the most beautiful maid as his wife. So everything is done, the pledge is done, writing is done, deed is done, everything is submitted. Yes, you can take me away after 24 years, and now it's my time to enjoy. Ondu kshana kuda nan bittu hogala. Every time and again I should enjoy my life, not even for a momentary. So what is his first desire? Dr. Faustus keltane, nanage ondu sundaravadanta wife beku. I need a wonderful wife. ಅವನಿಗೆ ಹೆಲೆನೆ ಬೇಕಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. The Trojan War, the Greek, the war. You all remember the Helen, the most beautiful woman on earth. So Dr. Faustus says that, I want a very keen to have a most beautiful maid as his wife. ನನಗೆ ಒಬ್ಬ maid ಬೇಕು as a wife ಆಗಿ. So I want my first decision. See, the man, he wants a beautiful woman now. And Mephistopheles dislikes the idea of marriage and just brings a devil dressed like a woman and annoys him. And he doesn't bring Mephistopheles doesn't like the idea of this marriage. Then yak beku wife bedappa anta en ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ. He brings a devil dressed like a woman. on the devil dressed in a woman form. And whereas Dr. Faustus felt very bad. What is this? He scolds him, he rebukes him, and he sends him away, and it's become annoys much. He tells Dr. Faustus that marriage is nothing but a silly, idle ceremony. Mephistopheles tells that, probably in my exam point of view, there is one annotations regarding the descriptions of the marriage in this play. And what is the words of Mephistopheles? Mephistopheles tells that to the Dr. Faustus that marriage is just nothing but a silly, idle ceremony. And he describes the marriage. And he really desires the company of a woman. He will fetch for him any woman that fascinates him. So next, and all that, it goes on, and they will have a discussion, and he brings a devil form of a lady, and Dr. Faustus wasn't happy with, and the scene closed. Next, in another scene, in the scene second, Act 2, scene second, what happened? Again in this scene, we find Dr. Faustus in his study with the Mephistopheles. He's again in a repentance mood for signing that fateful contract. Because when this first desire was not fulfilled, when he did not see a beautiful woman, he felt that probably these devils are making me fool. They're going to trap me here. So he wasn't sure about it, and he's repenting now. He has pledged his soul through the blood, through the blood, and he made a deed and submitted. And am I really doing the wrong thing? So he's repenting. He curses Mephistopheles for all his and thinks of retracting his steps. I'll take my words back. Do it now, because I may sense my sixth sense or whatever. Something is instructing me that I did the wrong thing. I think I have went against the God. So please, I retract my words. And that Dr. Faustus tells him. The way he after that, the way he words, the way he tells. The two angels immediately appear. The moment the Dr. Faustus thinks in that way, the two angels appear. The good angel urges him to repent and have God's pardon. Just seek for the pardon. Just tell the excuses. Pardon. Certainly God will listen to you. And evil angel says that he is a spirit now. He is not a ordinary man. He is a spirit now. He's a spirit. He's a devil now. He's a part of the devil world. So he cannot repent. He can never repent. Repent the evil angel tells him. Evil in the sense, the ketta angel. Faustus realizes that his dismay, that his art has so much ardent that he's incapable of repenting, and feel that he's condemned hell forever. And he condemned the hell forever. I'm not able to repent now. So he's understood his, the misconduct. He should not have went against the God, and he did it. And he often sees images of daggers while he sleeps, and when he goes to his room, he always visualizes these kind of pictures. That's the reason it's a tragedy of Dr. Faustus. If a lot of features now, you should remember. You should remember all these features to write when there will be a question on consider Dr. Faustus as a tragedy. Otherwise, the sin and redemption and all that. You should be very careful. Listen to the lecture and read the text again. You'll certainly understand it. And what happens further? He often sees the images of daggers, which pierce him. Images of daggers, hanging ropes, and poisoned words, and luring him to put an end to his life. Only the allurements or sensual pleasure of life prevent him from killing himself. You also remember the miraculous feast performed by him with the help of black art. He finally decides not to repent at all. The moment he seek for the good wife, he did not get. But when it comes to black magic, the devils are helping him. So he decided, yes, if he cannot come back, let me just go against and let me just go forward and just enjoy whatever befall on my path. This is what Dr. Faustus decided. And what happened? And next, there is one interaction between the Mephistopheles and the Dr. Faustus. Dr. Faustus asked about the creator of the universe. Mephistopheles stops. I'll ask you one question. Will you just tell me who is the creator of this universe? So Yoga, see, look at the irony. Mephistopheles cannot say the world has been created, the universe has been created by the God. He cannot say so. He cannot utter a word of God. And how does Mephistopheles replies? He refuses to answer him as the question regarding the creator, go against the law. If I say that it's a universe has been created by the God, it's against the laws of these devils. Mephistopheles pada utter madangilla. Mephistopheles should not say the word, the God. So and angry, Faustus curses him for damning his soul and turns him out. And he felt very sad that even Mephistopheles is not uttering the word that it is a god. And Dr. Faustus felt very bad, and he leaves and he scolds Mephistopheles. He thinks again of repentance of God's mercy. The two angel again appears. Quite often they appear. Whenever the Dr. Faustus dissatisfied with the word of this devils, immediately these angel come. An evil angel, a good angel tells him for God's mercy, whereas evil angel tells him again, warns Faustus that if he repent, the devils will tear him into pieces. Then if you remember a single word of the God, the devils, both the Lucifer and Beelzebub and the Mephistopheles, they all will come and will tear you into pieces. Evil angel tells to Dr. Faustus. But the good angel tells him, and that if he sincerely repents, the devils will have no power to touch even his skin. Good angel tells him, if he sincerely repents to the God, and devils will have no power to touch even his skin too. Dr. Faustus skin kuda touch manakagala. In case Dr. Faustus, if he sincerely repents, sincerely prays for God. This is how the conversation goes on. And this time, Mephistopheles comes back with the Lucifer and the Beelzebub. And Lucifer asserts that after signing the contract, Dr. Faustus has no right to pray for God or a Christ. They come and tell both the Lucifer, Beelzebub, and the Mephistopheles, the three trinities. These people, they came and tells Dr. Faustus, once your contract over, well, you are given a contract, you are given a deed, and no right to pray for God or a Christ. So you cannot remember either God or Faustus. Conscience tells him to repent his decision about necromancy. Conscience tells him to repent his decision about the necromancy. Yeah, good angel tells Harish. Good angel tells him that just not to go against God, leave the necromancy aside. But Dr. Faustus still, he fascinated by that. It meant he, changed his decision then towards evil magic. Absolutely, his mind changes towards evil because he does a lot of magic. Because after all, he decided that once he's pledged and soul is away to the evils, he cannot change his mind. And he said, yes, once I've made everything clear, and let me at least just go against and enjoy my life for 24 years. This is what he decided. Good, Harish. And what happens? And the Christ cannot and will not save him now, as he is the master of his soul according to the contract. And Dr. Faustus realizes his position with a terror in his soul, and finally promises to burn all scriptures and kill all his ministers and all, never utter the name of God or pray him. So he decided to burn all the holy scriptures. Whatever he maintained, the certain holy script, the religious textbook, Dr. Faustus is going to burn everything now. And he cannot think about him. And Lucifer is highly pleased, and to entertain him shows him the enchanting dance of 7 deadly sins. Yavaga, Dr. Faustus decided to burn the holy script, and the Lucifer wanted to please him with an entertainment. He calls for a 7 deadly sins. They gave introduction about themselves and entertained Dr. Faustus. It's an entertainment to him. ಮನುಷ್ಯನ ಒಂದು ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತ ಒಂದು ಸಿನ್ ಅಂತ ಪ್ರೈಡ್ ಅಂತ ಏನ್ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. 7 deadly sins. Which are the 7 deadly sins ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ 7 deadly sins. We do a sin for 7 reasons. One, because of our sins committed only through pride in the covetousness, greedy in the wrath, arrogance in the envy, jealousy in the gluttony, so much of greedy for food or whatever, sloth, laziness, and lechery, the kind of a lustfulness. So all these 7 deadly sins, they come before him, they entertain Dr. Faustus. Adanella ನೀವು textbook ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಓದ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, because all this information given in the textbook so very clearly, and you will certainly enjoy that. And further, in Act 3, I'll give a brief introduction about Act 3, and I'll finish this Act 3, and probably in the noon session, evening session, I'll take up Act 4 and 5 and complete the text. Tomorrow we'll take up another important text. I'll teach you either further important text tomorrow. So I decided to complete this text because there are a lot more text to be dealt in this program, 5 days program. In Act 3, what happens? After giving up his soul to the devils, he also informs us to the next program. What is that? A bright chariot drawn by mighty dragons carried him to the top of Mountain Olympus in order to study the mysteries of heavenly bodies. ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಚಾರ್ಟ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ and take him and to the world of mysteries, whatever the mysteries are there, he has to learn all that. And moving to a great speed is moving swift chariot to the east, west, around the poles. And Faustus was back at his home in 8 days, and he had gone to all world trip to enjoy the mysteries of the world. It is the next pleasure of him. And then, but again, he climbed high on a dragon with the wings to study cosmography. He takes the wings and he flies to the heaven, and he wanted to study the entire cosmography. Who has created the cosmography? The God himself. And whereas the Dr. Faustus is not even understood that, and he again, one after another, he doing all kind of a misconduct going against the God. He wanted to learn the cosmography now, the science of the constructions of the universe, how the universe has been constructed. He wants to know that. And then the chorus understands that the Faustus will now visit to Rome to see Pope and the court. After the cosmography, he learned it. He has to go to the Rome to understand the Rome country, and you want to discuss with the Pope. Pope jothe avanu maatadbeku ivaga. So what does he do that? The chorus understood that, and the court and also participate in the feast of Saint Peter there. Allondu habba acharane agtirutte. There is a feast, there is a celebrations in the Rome. So the Dr. Faustus, he visited to that place and he wanted to see that. And this is what happens in the beginning, the first scene. And very interesting and important places like the France, Italy, and Paris, Naples, Venice, ella kade Dr. Faustus suttartane. Because every day is important day for him. Within the 24 years, he has to enjoy the worldly power. He goes to all the country. He goes to cosmic, and he goes to the kind of a cosmology, and he goes to Italy, France, and all the places to enjoy the life, enjoy his worldly pleasure. And Mephistopheles tells him that they have to at least come to Rome and are going to stay in the private chamber of holiness. So ಈ ತರ ಎಲ್ಲ ಅವರು ರೋಮ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರೆ, ಪೋಪನ್ನ ಮೀಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. They enjoyed all that, and finally what happened? They conclude that it must have the work of some ghosts that have recently come out of purgatory to seek pardon as holiness. So here they are not even allowed Dr. Faustus to go to any holy places to to utter a word. So idella agutte. So what happened? So now the Dr. Faustus is in the chamber of the Pope of Rome, and Dr. Faustus and the Mephistopheles, they start beating the friars and the fling fireworks among them, and all take to their heels out of fright. So they beat all the drums and enjoying the celebrations, the feast in the Rome with the Pope. So now Dr. Faustus is in the amidst of celebrations, in amidst of devils. So nowhere, so illige namge act 3 mugiyutte. Act 3 alli he visit to all the places of the entire country, and he enjoys there, and he enjoys the traveling. And dear learners, I'll stop now by after 1 minute of my talk. So now I have completed Act 3, complete in the sense like I just gave you the overview, what has been happening so far, and the Act 1, 2, and 3. So now I must tell you, the Dr. Faustus, he is in height of enjoyment. He has been to Naples, Italy, and all the places. Now he's in Rome, because Rome is such a place where he can meet the Pope, where he'll get lots of entertainment. There have been celebrations, a feast, festival, and Dr. Faustus, he is in the height of his celebrations. And gradually, he is expecting his downfall. When the man is enjoying the upliftment and enjoying his high celebrations, and invariably, he has to look back. And probably in the Act 4 and 5th, we understand his downfall. It's a degeneration. It is complete, deterioration. Deterioration ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಅವನು ಒಂದು ಅವನತಿಯ ಹಾದಿ ಹಿಡಿತಾನೆ Dr. Faustus ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ we understood. So remember Dr. Faustus, the tragical history of Dr. Faustus, it is known for his morality play. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ನೀತಿ ಕಥೆಗಳಿದೆ, ನೀತಿ ಪಾಠಗಳಿದೆ through the good angels. ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ. And I also told you it is a Renaissance play, because they have derived from the movement called Renaissance through the Italy, and the way they give prominence for the intellectuality, rebirth of knowledge. The one has to celebrate his own individuality, and ultimately they led a tragic death. And I stop at this juncture, and I tell you further. I'll continue this class further tomorrow. Afternoon. My class is between the last class, I guess. yes, between 4 to 5. In 4 to 5, there are 2 acts remaining. 4 and 5, I complete the text today, and we'll see the next text tomorrow. So I'm very happy, and for your wonderful response. And within the given time, within the 1 hour, I try to complete the whatever the plan that I had that should have to give a justice. I did it, and hope you will certainly enjoy it. And we'll meet you in the noon session. Thank you, dear students. And the photos are the only proof that we have met our student through virtual mode. The wonderful memories. So in a limited time, explain 3 acts very clearly. Thank you so much, sir. Oh, thank you, Saujanya. Your comment is so excellent. I mean, I value your comment. I value your comment, and thank you. I appreciate you people for your words. I'm sure that you certainly got the concrete picture of the text, and you read extra study material, and you can always talk to me between the official time between 10:30 to 5:30 as much as possible. I try to give you a few more important important suggestions about the text. See you tomorrow. See you in the afternoon. Thank you. I leave the session now.